The year?
1853.
The place?
London. Characters?
Me, that is Primus, and my mother?
Cordelia.
The mater's an actress. Of the top rank, so I'm told, though the last time she trod the boards was over 20 years ago. Since then, she says, she's been looking for the right script.
Also, darling, I'm looking for the right husband.
Ah, yes, the right husband. What a notion, n'est-ce pas? Someone, somewhere out there, is waiting to become my step-pater. So now, read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, and David Horowitz as Gerald. Episode 1, Bronte Country.
6 o'clock, Gerald.
Yes, the end of another day, the end of another week.
I hope you think it has been a good week, Gerald.
Oh, yes, Mother.
Are there things you've left undone, perhaps, which you ought to have done? You should you not, have arranged for a reprint of The Slaughter of the Innocents, specially told for young people by Mrs. G. Reynolds.
Yes, Mother.
And as regards things you have done, which perhaps you ought not to have done...
Yes, Mother?
I could mention the bonus you gave to Mr. Temperley.
Yes, Mother, you could. Now, Mother, what are you planning to do tomorrow?
I'm going to write to Mr. Temperley and urge him, as a Christian, to give the bonus back.
Oh. Well, I think I'll pay a visit to the zoo.
Look, over by that tree, Primus. The gentleman with the very large beard. Wouldn't you like him for a step-pater, darling?
Not much, though he might be useful as a rug. I think I prefer that fellow there. Him, with the pink cravat.
Yes, darling, lovely, lovely. But him with the pink cravat has a pink woman trailing after him and 3 pink children.
Oh, he's nice. With the cap and the tray of buns.
Primus, I am not marrying a zookeeper.
And the mater then embarks upon a monologue with reference to times being hard, but not that hard, the importance of dignity and self-respect, and the need for her to marry well, not only to provide herself with comfort and security, but also in order to set me up in a good job, etc., etc. And as she warms to her theme, she wields her parasol with grand gestures worthy of her profession. And malheureusement...
You see, darling...
Ouch! She digs the sharp end of her parasol...
the kind of husband we're looking for...
into the blameless shin of a passerby. Ouch! Twice.
Oh, heavens! Oh, what have I done?
You've dug the sharp end of your parasol into the blameless shin of a passerby. Twice.
It's, nothing.
Blood! Blood! I've drawn blood.
Oh, surely not.
Take a seat, sir, please. Roll up your trouser leg, sir.
What?
No, madam.
But Madam is not to be denied. The trouser leg is rolled up, and Madam's silk scarf, jauntily emblazoned with a Cupid motif, is tied around the wound.
Oh, heavens, how can you forgive me? My name is Cordelia, by the way, and this is my dear, dear son, Primus.
Good afternoon.
Salut!
I had hoped for a secundus and a tertius, but alas, my dear, dear husband died before he could accomplish the necessaries.
My sincere condolences to you.
Thanks. What is your name, sir?
Spavin, Gerald.
Profession?
Publishing.
Publishing. How wonderful. That's something you've always been interested in, isn't it, Primus?
Is it, Mother?
And to which firm are you attached, sir?
Spavin and Spavin of Paternoster Row, specialists in Bibles and Bible commentary, doctrinal exegesis, prayer books, hymn books, lives of the martyrs...
And their gory but stimulating deaths, no doubt. May I ask what your position is within the firm?
I am managing director.
Managing director? Did you hear that, Primus?
Yes, Mother.
Though I confess I am not quite used to the title yet. Father died a mere 6 months ago.
My sincere condolences, darling.
Thank you.
Tell me, is there by chance a Mrs. Spavin?
There is.
Ah.
She shows great interest in the firm, despite her age and frailty, dear Mother.
Ah, yes, dear Mother, indeed.
The mater doesn't really need me on these occasions, so I've gone off to watch the apes. Splendid creatures. I wonder if by any strange chance them and us might be related.
Sir. Sir.
Yes?
Sir, please forgive me for intruding upon your private thoughts, but I require assistance. Can you hear me, by the way?
Just about. She wears an adult's physog on a 10-year-old's body. Big nose, glasses, a twitch in one eye. Her bag, which is several sizes too large for her, is decorated with a brass monogram composed of the letters C.B.
I fear I am an exceedingly timid creature, sir, so I cannot speak any louder. In truth, I suffer from such anxiety and self-consciousness when going among strangers that it is a wonder that I ever managed to talk at all.
Oh, you're doing very nicely. Now, don't fret.
This nervous condition of mine, I might add, results in neuralgic headaches of the most obnoxious sort.
Hard lies.
And they are particularly acute at both the vernal and autumnal equinoxes. Also, sir, I am frequently ground to the dust with deep dejection of spirits. Sorrow and pain are my lot, sir.
Quel dommage.
But I bear my suffering with fortitude and endeavour to school myself against anticipating even the tiniest ray of happiness in this world.
Let's pray that you don't win the lottery. You'll die of shock. Now, how can I help?
Well, sir, I have a great longing to see a camel.
Camel? Is that one hump or two?
How is your leg, Mr. Spavin?
As good as new.
I have so enjoyed our conversation, have you?
Oh, hugely.
Our minds are very closely attuned to each other, do you not think?
Yes, I do.
We have so much in common, so much to share. Is yours a steady income, darling?
Pretty steady.
Your work must give you great pleasure.
Yes.
On account of your endeavours, Mr. Spavin, the populace receives divine revelation and the key to righteousness, and always, I'm sure, in an extremely attractive binding.
Are you a believer, madam?
Me? Heavens, yes. I believe in pretty well everything. Now, darling, we must make sure that we meet again very, very soon.
Can't think, can't work. I am in love. In love? Me? I can scarcely believe it's possible. Me, Gerald Spavin of Spavin and Spavin, whose whole life has been, well, dull, for want of a better word. I have the mark still where she drove in the point of the parasol, and I have her silk headscarf with which she so tenderly dressed the wound. I have told Mother nothing. I will have to tell her eventually, I suppose. I mean, I'll be required to make some allusion to Cordelia if I invite her here for tea. Cordelia. And her dear son, Primus. Yes, him I shall learn to love.
Yes, lady?
The high road, East Finchley, please, darling.
Do you think you'll marry him, Mother?
Oh, darling, the driver?
No, Gerald Spavin of Spavin and Spavin.
I might.
He's horribly humdrum.
He is. But he does run a profitable business, and you could join it. You don't have a wealth of experience in the field of publishing.
I don't have experience in any field.
But that's your strength, you see. You'd come to Spavin and Spavin fresh and uncorseted.
Throbbing with vitality.
Suppurating with fresh ideas.
No more books on religion. That would be my first fresh idea.
Yes. Of course, Mr. Spavin might not care for that particular fresh idea, nor might his mother, but they'd have to give it serious consideration. Do you think you would like to join the firm, darling?
Possibly. Spavin, and Primus. Goats and monkeys, it's busy, ain't it? You know what I'd do if I was in charge of London's transport?
What, darling?
I'd build an electric-powered railway underneath the ground.
Heavens, darling! That is a fresh idea.
Oh, bloody hell, bloody traffic.
Oh, look, it's her. I'm sure it is.
Who, darling?
The midget I met at the zoo. Driver, stop the carriage.
It is bloody stopped.
That office there, number 65.
publishers, I think, darling.
Yes, and in the window a picture of... who does it say?
Cara Bell, author of Jane Eyre. Well. Apparently everyone's read Jane Eyre. Have you read Jane Eyre, darling?
No.
Nor have I. Was Cara Bell nice?
No, she was not. She was a pain in the cods.
Spoilt by fame, the silly woman. Now, they could never say that of me. Of course, she might be useful to you, darling.
In my new career, you mean? Yes. Cara Bell, England's sensational...
But spoiled...
best-selling author, signs up for Spavin, and Primus. Very nice. I'll track her down.
Sir, I have a publisher.
Of course you do.
He is a man of good faith and integrity.
And I, madam, am a man of great charm and absolutely enormous energy. And I know all that there is to be known about formats and niches and readership profiles and marketing and promotion. For example, your name.
My name?
Cara Bell. I'd have changed that straight away if you'd been with me. You want something that says romance, excitement, danger.
It isn't my real name.
Oh, is it not?
My sisters and I, we all of us adopted nom de plume when we took our first steps in the literary world. My real name is Charlotte Bronte.
Charlotte Bronte! Oh, yes, much better. It has a real touch of the je ne sais quoi, n'est-ce pas? Now, you stick with that. You have sisters, you say? And they write, you say?
No, sir. They no longer toil in this vale of tears.
Writer's block, eh?
Sir, they are dead. My brother, too, is dead. My sister's dog is dead.
Hard lines. What happened? A driving accident? A meteor? Now tell me, if you will, where is Bronte country? Exactement.
Mother?
Yes, Gerald?
I'm not coming into the office tomorrow.
You're not? Why not? Are you planning to be ill?
No, Mother, I'm planning to go on a train.
A train? Whither?
Northwards, I think.
Why?
Because I've been asked to. By a woman I met at the zoo.
At the zoo?
Yes, Mother, in front of the elephant house.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
I think you are ill.
I've never been to Yorkshire. There are moors and so forth, I believe. Are we going tramping?
No, Mr. Spavin, or shall I call you Gerald? We're going on business.
Are we?
Book business, darling.
Oh, dear.
You may not have realized, Gerald, that my son has connections with the literary world.
No, I was unaware of that.
I am, for example, a close personal friend of the eminent novelist Cara Bell, a.k.a. Miss Charlotte Bronte.
Author of Jane Eyre. Have you read it, darling?
No.
She herself has a contractual arrangement with her present publishers, Smith, Elder and Company, from which she is unable to extricate herself. However, for her two sisters...
Acton and Eris Bell...
a.k.a. Anne and Emily...
The situation is somewhat different.
You see, Gerald, a.k.a. Mr. Spavin, they are dead. They have abandoned all interest in publishers and contracts. And yet, sir, from what I understand, they will have left something of a legacy behind them, for they all were writers since they first clutched a quill. And even the degenerate Bronte brother, whose chief interest lay in destroying his brain with laudanum and Yorkshire bitter, even he, it seems, found a lucid moment or two in which to jot down a poetic effusion or make a start on a novel. Now, that home of theirs, I'll wager, is a treasure trove of Bronteana. Poetry, prose, letters, diaries. Let Spavin and Spavin publish that lot, sir, and it will be the publishing coup of the century.
Oh, bugger in hell! Bugger in with that! What a bastard!
But, Primus...
Yes, Gerald?
I must remind you, Spavin and Spavin doesn't publish that sort of thing. Never has done.
We know that, darling. But if there was a high moral tone to it, if it was gorgeously pious and godly and well-priced...
If it's sold in huge quantities...
What possible objection could there be? Oh, Gerald. Primus is such a fine, splendidly equipped boy.
Throbbing with vitality.
Suppurating with fresh ideas.
Oh, dear.
He's always wanted to work in publishing. Always.
Daddy, you must all get out and walk to rest.
Sorry, darling.
To horse. He's on go up to hill.
No, what you urge me may have much to recommend it. Possibly. But you see, the firm has a solid base and a solid reputation. It has a tradition of religious publishing which goes back 4 generations.
Time for a change, perhaps.
And also, you see, I have to think about my mother.
Oh, do you? Why?
She's a bully and a tyrant.
Oh, darlings, what a gorgeous view.
Moors, more moors, grey houses, the Black Bull Inn, rain. Oh, yes, it's all here. At last, we reach the parsonage at Haworth, are admitted into the study, and there meet the father of the Bronte brood, the Reverend Patrick.
Good afternoon.
I beg your pardon?
Good afternoon.
The white stock he wears is pulled over his mouth. He says, I think he says, that he wears it in order to protect himself from consumption, cholera,
Rubella, black water fever, botulism, typhoid.
scarlatina, encephalitis, all of which apparently are virulent in this hellhole of Tynorth.
Mr. Bronte, darling, I do assure you, we all come with a clean bill of health.
Oh, yes.
And at last he is persuaded to lower his stock.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am very ancient. I am half blind. I am exceeding frail.
You have survived, sir. You have outlived almost all your children. Bravo! Now, sir, thee and me must get to work.
Your son indeed is a bundle of energy.
He is. He is. Oh, Gerald, I am so glad you love the boy. For by loving him, you know, you show your love for me. Inspiring places, churchyards. Don't you think?
Yes, though I wouldn't like to be in one forever.
I had some gorgeous lines about death in a play I was in with dear old Binky Burford. Death is... Death is... Anyway, do you feel inspired enough to kiss me, darling?
What? Oh, yes. Yes.
Gorgeous, darling.
Oh, my dearest, my sweetest, my soul's other half. I'm so incredibly, well, happy, I suppose, for want of a better word. Happy. It never happened to me before. There's just one difficulty.
Yes, darling?
It isn't Primus as such. It's Primus and publishing. Would he not like to consider some other career path? Or try his luck, perhaps, with publishers more suited to his specific areas of interest?
I don't think so, darling. Kiss me again.
Your daughter agreed, sir, that I might look through the whole jolly lot, sir. Where are these boxes you spoke of, sir?
Beneath the bed.
Beneath the bed. She and I are well acquainted. She knows me as a man of good faith and integrity. Nothing inferior or in any way damaging to the reputation of your offspring will be published. And, of course, your daughter will be consulted at every stage of the process. Success! This one's marked B.
B for Branwell. Poor dear Branwell. Open it.
Morning, sleep. Afternoon, get rat-arsed. Well, another box. This one's marked E.
For Emily.
And this one bears the letter A.
For Anne.
And this one's C for Charlotte. Busy beavers, the Brontes. One more. Marked X. X?
Xmas decorations.
There is something else to consider, of course. Aside from these manuscripts and the solemn duty we have to publish what is of true worth...
Do you mean my own poems, sir?
No, sir. Heritage.
Heritage?
Yes. How about the parsonage as a museum come Bronte archive and research centre, with you as chief curator and living exhibit?
Oh.
Aye. Well, think on't. It's night. I'm in bed. I'm in Emily's room. We're staying over, you see. I'd hoped I might grab everything and go, but there's too much. Needs a thorough, rigorous sorting through. So, the stuff I can read on this pile, and what can't be deciphered except with a microscope, that stays behind. Very tired. Been a long day. Oh, at the top of Emily's box, I found a hefty manuscript entitled Wuthering Heights 2, The Perverted Passion Continues. That sounds promising, eh? Blasted wind. Blasted tree. Blasted window. Ooh!
Let me in! Let me in!
Ooh! Who are you?
Emily Jane Bronte. I've been dead these 20 years.
Liar. It's more like 5.
Well, it feels like 20, I tell you. Ooh! Let me in!
No.
No.
No. Don't believe in ghosts.
Step 1. Cock the pistol. Step 2.
Morning, Mr. Bronte.
Direct it towards the ceiling.
Oh, dear.
Step 3.
No, stop.
It is not pointed at you, sir. Wherever you are.
Indeed it is not, but you are holding the pistol the wrong way round. It's pointed at yourself.
Good Lord. Oh, there. Is that any better?
Wait a minute. Yes, that's better.
Fire!
Finished?
Yes. Oh, and thank you for your help. I do this every morning, you know.
Then I am surprised you have lived so long. Why do you do it?
It helps to foster my reputation for eccentricity. Sir, I have received a letter. Would you be so kind as to read it for me?
Certainly. Dear Papa, I have left London, am now in Manchester staying with Mrs. Gaskell, and if all be well, I intend to reciprocate her kind hospitality.
Come in, Charlotte.
And I have brought Mrs. Gaskell with me.
Well then, she must come in too.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, and to you, madam.
Good morning, good morning.
Now, Charlotte, a letter has arrived, and I'm having it read to me by this kind gentleman whose name I have forgotten.
I think that letter is my own, Papa.
No. You'll find it's addressed to me.
Papa, Mrs. Gaskell here is a dear friend of mine.
Also author of Mary Barton and Cranford.
Never heard of them.
Might I ask, sir?
Spavin, Gerald Spavin of Spavin.
Ah, good morning, sir.
Spavin and Spavin.
Publishers of religion.
Yes, I have some of your books on my shelves. Where are my shelves?
I believe, Miss Bronte, that an acquaintance of mine is well known to you, a young fellow by the name of Primus.
Sir, I know him, but not well.
Oh, I think you'll find you do, my dear. He is a friend of long standing.
No, Papa.
You regard him as a man of good faith and integrity.
No, Papa.
And it is with your permission, Charlotte, that he has been sorting through the boxes in my bedroom.
The boxes in your bedroom? Oh, Papa!
Oh, dear.
Primus. Yes?
Primus, you lied to me.
And you lied to my dear friend, Miss Bronte.
And you lied to me, sir.
Morning, everyone. Lied? Surely not.
Liar. Knave. The name's Mrs. Gaskell, by the way. Novelist. Author of Mary Barton and Cranford.
Never heard of them.
To return. You are a liar and a knave. You gained Miss Bronte's trust by deception. You cheated your way into this house in order to make money out of both her and her sorry siblings.
Now, that's quite unfair.
Liar, knave. Step 1, cock the pistol.
Hang on.
Say your prayers, miscreant.
God almighty.
That's enough. Mr. Bronte. Sir, am I pointed in the right direction?
No, sir.
Then point me.
Gerald. Sir, Mr. Spavin. Think of Mother.
Give me the gun.
Help! Oh, blasted window! Help!
patronage has been purged of the vile intruders, and poor Miss Bronte, afflicted with a dreadful headache as a result of the morning's events, has gone to her room. I have promised her that I will restore the contents of the boxes, put everything back in its proper place. Good gracious. You would not believe the wealth of material. Aside, I mean, from the juvenilia and other creative work, there are letters and more letters, there are diary papers. There is enough stuff here to yield a fine, fat volume of biography. And with the minimum of effort, I'd imagine. Well, Mrs. Gaskell, why not? I'll keep that, and 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 that.
The shot missed me.
Oh, my little chick.
But it broke the rusted window catch. The window flew open.
And Primus flew out.
Oh, my angel.
Mrs. Gaskell then took aim from the window, though, of course, I did my very best to prevent her.
Oh, courageous Gerald.
This time, she hit me.
Oh, heavens.
Well, that is, she hit the thick manuscript, which I had snatched up before I made my getaway and stuffed inside my shirt. Wuthering Heights 2, the perverted passion continues. It saved my life.
Oh, gorgeous, darling.
And then, Cordelia, there was a chase with Mrs. Gaskell in pursuit of Primus and me in pursuit of Mrs. Gaskell, which she gave up when she reached the moors, for it was very wet and there were treacherous bogs.
And I fell in one. Naturellement.
Oh, my lambkin.
And I rescued him.
Oh, fearless, Gerald.
My life was saved a second time. Sir, how can I ever repay you?
Well, since you ask, Primus, you might like to have another very serious think concerning your future career?
Sir, Mr. Spavin, Gerald, I have already done so, and I tell you I am more determined than ever to make a success of publishing.
Oh.
I shall send my suit to the cleaners and start all over again.
Bravo! By the by, whatever happened to Perverted Passion Part 2?
Ah, it also went into the bog, and it didn't come out.
That was episode 1 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Gerald by David Horowitz, and Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs. Charlotte Bronte was played by Sarah Jane Home, the Reverend Bronte by Geoffrey Whitehead, Mrs. Gaskell by Frances Jeter, and The Drivers by David Antrobus. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year?
1855.
The place?
London. Characters?
Me, that is Primus, and the mater?
Cordelia.
She's an actress, though it's a while since she found a part suited to her talents. She's also a jolly good chum of the managing director of a publishing firm.
Gerald, he's a darling.
She might marry him, she thinks. And you see, as a result of this gratifying relationship...
My dear boy Primus, who previously had never quite discovered his true métier...
I've made a career choice. I'm getting into publishing. I've as good as joined Gerald's firm. I'm threatening to become another Victorian success story.
Gorgeous, darling. So now, read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Norman Rodway as Richard Burton, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, and David Horowitz as Gerald. Episode 2, Gone for a Burton.
Lord God Almighty, who has safely brought us,
viz. Gerald Spavin and his mother Edith,
to the beginning of this day,
viz. Monday, August the 26th,
grant that all our doings,
viz. At Spavin and Spavin, religious publishers of Paternoster Row,
may be ordered by thy governance, so that we may do thy holy work, and at the same time reap such pecuniary benefit as may constitute a comfortable sufficiency. Amen.
I have a secret which I have kept from Mother, if not from God. I am in love, for want of a better word. Yes, me, in love with the most wonderful woman in the world. But the wonderful woman has a son, a feckless creature. Oh, dear. Mother?
Yes, Gerald?
Might I have a word?
Yes, Gerald?
He mustn't join the firm.
Is it about Bishop Butler's missing page proofs?
No, Mother. It'll be the death of Mother if he does. He'll finish the firm off too, no doubt.
Is it about the monthly figures?
Not directly, Mother. But the difficulty is I all but promised the most wonderful woman in the world that I'd give the feckless creature a decent chance.
Gerald, are you intending to tell me what it is about?
It's about a woman.
A woman?
The very same woman, Mother, that I met at the zoo, along with her son.
A son? By whom?
By the father, Mother, who has since perished. He's a very personable lad, good at heart, and as for his mother, I am in love with her.
Nonsense! Impossible!
Her name is Cordelia.
That makes no difference. Gerald, you know nothing about such things. Your life has been given up to religious books and celibacy. In love? With a woman you met at the zoo? You're a fool, Gerald, or a liar, or both. I'd ask you not to refer to this matter again.
As you wish, Mother. One thing I ought to mention, though. She and the personable son, they're coming round for tea.
Well, Mother, by all accounts, she's the prime article, the very thing itself. Her name is Katie Joyner, and she writes biographies that sell by the wagon load.
Katie Joyner? Yes, of course.
Have you read any of them, Mother?
No, darling.
Nor have I. But my understanding is that they're extraordinarily shocking and revelatory. All sorts of skeletons are dragged out of their respective cupboards when the Joiner's at work. So I thought, if her next volume were to be published by Spavin and Spavin...
And Primus...
It would be a top-rank coup, n'est-ce pas? A way of saying, new regime, new Spavin, success!
Gorgeous, darling.
Good day, madam. Good day, sir. I wonder if I might share your vehicle.
For what purpose, sir?
So that I may get home.
Well, where is your home?
Can't tell you that.
Why not? Are you plotting a conspiracy?
No, madam. I am a restless vagabond, a nomad, a wild rover. Can't help myself. It's just the Bedouin in my soul. And you see, I am so often on my travels that I cannot remember where my house is. Also, as it happens, I have since breakfast consumed 3 pipes of opium and a bottle of gin. But I was hoping that if I travel with you far enough, I might glimpse a locality that looks familiar and discover the way to my abode.
I like your fancy dress. Have you been to a party?
I have not. I've been alone, but I've been very good company, too. No, sir. This is the clothing I wore when I worked as an undercover agent investigating the homosexual brothels of Karachi. Mirza Abdullah of Bushir, your humble servant.
Gorgeous, darling.
I'm a master of disguise. I'm a linguist, too. Fluent in 35 languages. Arabic, Gujarati, I can't remember the rest. Also, I fought alongside the Bashi Basouks in the Crimea. I am a dopehead and an alcoholic, of course. I've committed every sin in the Decalogue. I'm a writer.
A writer? A king of the quill?
Works include falconry in the Valley of the Indus, a complete system of bayonet exercise.
Well, I, sir, am a publisher. What is your name?
My name?
Apart from Mirza Abdullah. A bit unfair to throw that one at you, but...
Look, my card.
Richard Francis Burton.
Yes, that's me.
It also has your address.
Of course it does.
Boulogne, sir, that's where your house is.
Is it?
But we're not going quite that far, I'm afraid. What a lovely little building.
Nice view.
Have you been here long, Mrs. Spavin?
Since 7:30 this morning.
Yeah, I think what Cordelia was asking, Mother, was whether the firm is well established.
Oh, well, if that is what she was asking, the answer is yes.
Ritual and doxology in the early British Church. St. Gilbert and the Nuns of Sembringham.
Our latest publications.
Selling like hot cross buns, I bet.
You've never tried publishing fiction at all?
What, madam?
Fiction, you know, stories.
Fiction is the titillation of the baser parts. Fiction is the fruit of the poison tree.
Biography, sport, travel.
We publish religion.
So I gather.
We have always published religion since 1749. You, sir?
Me, madam?
Primus's name is Primus, Mother.
I'm informed that your mother is an actress.
That's right, darling.
What are you?
Me, madam?
Do you have a profession?
Oh, yes, for certain, madam, I do.
You see, Mother...
I'm in publishing.
Are you? And which particular publishing house is it which accommodates you?
If I may just at this point interject a word or two which may be helpful.
This publishing house.
This one?
This one.
No. No.
Oh, it's true, darling. Ask Gerald.
Well, thank you for coming. Both of you.
Darling, the pleasure was entirely ours. Your mother isn't upset, I hope.
Upset? No. She was a little taken by surprise, that's all. My fault. I should have broached the matter of Primus's employment a little in advance.
I take it there'll be no problem.
No.
I'd like to get cracking ASAP, on a formal basis, I mean. My own office, regular salary, really start to show what I'm made of. Turn the firm round.
Turn it round?
Of course, I've done a lot of hard work already.
Primus has lined up 2 major publications.
He's done what?
One, a meticulously researched, sensational new work by the celebrated biographer Katie Joyner. The subject, to be announced.
And 2...
a travel book by Richard Burton. He's a close personal friend of mine. I was talking to him earlier today, in fact. He's agreed to write about his trip to discover the source of the Nile.
The source of the Nile? Has it been discovered?
Not yet. The idea is the firm funds the trip and the Burton finds the source. Result, bestseller!
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
You are a fool. You are unutterably idiotic. To give a boy such as him, to give a juvenile delinquent a job at Spavin and Spavin...
It's for a trial period, Mother. Primus on probation, and at the end of 6 months...
6 months? I must have the creature's sickly, silly face in here for 6 months? And for no other reason than that you think you've fallen in love with his mother? I'm going to lie down. Suddenly my heart's not right.
Saturday. I am at the Royal Observatory, Greenwich, with my beloved.
Isn't that extraordinary, darling? Look, you are in the Western Hemisphere, and I am in the East.
Wherever you are, Cordelia, there will I follow.
Gorgeous, darling. Do you believe in divine synchronicity? Do you believe that things are somehow ordained in advance? Do you believe in kismet?
Yes, at least I'm sure I could do if I put my mind to it.
You see, I never feel I'm entirely in control of things.
Nor do I. Not nowadays. I used to be.
Events arise up and take me by surprise. One day, I'm at the zoo. I plunge the point of my parasol into a stranger's leg, and suddenly, I've met the man of my life.
Darling. Angel.
Oh, just remembered. That Nile fellow, Burton.
Yes?
Primus wonders if you might have a chat with him.
Me?
Yes, darling. Soonest, he says. He'd do it himself, but he's very busy with Katie Joyner, the meticulous, sensational biographer. The idea is, says Primus, to finalise the terms with Burton. Draw up a contract, that sort of thing. Strike while the Nile's hot.
Cordelia, my treasure, I am so much in love with you that there is nothing I wouldn't do for you and for your dear son. Almost nothing. But, Cordelia, there is a small difficulty with regard to Mother.
Nonsense, darling. She's an absolute sweetie. Mr. Burton, by the way, is residing at the Goat and Monkey in Spitalfields. He's in disguise. You can't miss him.
Eater of camel dung, son of a banyan pip!
Excuse me, sir. May I ask your name?
My name?
It isn't by any chance Richard Burton.
That's the fellow. Dick Burton, special agent, master of disguise, explorer, linguist.
My name's Spavin.
Of course it is. Greetings, salut, zratsvuti, salve, stand up, salamander.
Has something unfortunate happened?
I was stood at the bar of that vile public house there, examining the bottom of my glass, when a sailor approached me and made an insulting insinuation about my drooping mustachios. I immediately challenged him to a duel with sabres, but the coward declined. "No thanks, mate," he said, and punched me on the nose.
You were ill-used, I think.
I was, sir, I was. But, Effendi, at times like these I am able to find consolation in the mystic wisdom of the Sufis and seek tranquility through contemplation. Ah, behold, the duck and caterpillar. Now, what are you having?
I don't drink as a rule.
I'll have a large gin.
Oh, right. Landlord, a large gin, please. Now, Mr. Burton.
That's me?
Regarding this deal which was broached by my colleague...
Yes, I, for my part, have not been slow. Let me assure you, my personal belongings and scientific instruments are all packed. The provisions are all provided for. I have a team of 300 coolies and 500 donkeys standing by in Zanzibar, and a boat moored at Tilbury. It simply remains for you to pay me in cash, and at the first available opportunity, right now by preference, the sum previously agreed with your young colleague to cover both the funding of this momentous expedition and the first half of the fee for the resulting book.
What was the sum previously agreed?
£4,000.
£4,000? Landlord, another large gin, please.
My rule is simple, sir. Dig deep. Tell all. I am merciless in my pursuit of the truth. I hate hypocrisy and deceit, and I am no respecter of persons.
Top notch, Miss Joyner. Prime cut.
My works include The Secret Life of Florence Nightingale, The Secret Life of Lord Palmerston, and The Secret Life of Albert Francis Charles Augustus Emmanuel of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha.
Who?
The Queen's consort. Now I see from your card, sir, that you are a representative of Spavin and Spavin.
I am, madam.
Then let me tell you, I have no intention of writing the life of a saint.
Ça va, so dear.
Unless that is, the saint transpires to be a sinner, and has perpetrated all manner of private perversions in the protracted intervals between his public acts of virtue.
Oh, yes, certainement. Let me enlighten you, Miss Joyner. In the past, of course, Spavin and Spavin has devoted itself to religious publications, but my arrival at the firm has raised something of a breeze. Change is the watchword now. Change, change, change. That's the mode. We're going secular, madam, in a really, really big way. Do you dare to be part of this publishing revolution?
Fleabag! Mangy cur!
We have left the Duck and Caterpillar in some haste on account of Mr. Burton entering into a disagreement with the landlord's dog, challenging it to a duel with sabres and being badly bitten in several places.
Scurvy mongrel! Bum sniffer!
The beast was very rough with you, sir.
It was. I was ill-used. Still, there's always another caravanserai just around the corner.
The contract, by the way, remains undrawn up. The truth is, I am beginning to have some doubts about this man.
So, to continue my tale, I grew a beard down to my navel and covered my skin with henna. I journeyed with the Jat camel men, listened to their conversations, and very quickly acquired the complexities of their language.
Where are we?
Haven't a clue.
Oh, dear.
London, perhaps? Look about this contract.
Ah, yes.
Yes?
Well,
Damn it, Effendi, am I getting the 4,000 or not? £50 in flimsies would do in the first instance.
It's getting dark. Also, we're lost.
Lost? How can we be lost? We don't know where we're going.
Good morning.
Oh, it's you.
Correct. Nice room. Nice view.
Yes, and the time is 10 to 11.
Just a little after, indeed.
You are almost 3 hours late.
Ah, well...
Listen, young person. I do not want you here at all. Spavin and Spavin has no need whatsoever of your asinine conduct and your presumptuous aspirations. It has done tolerably well without them since 1749. But if you must work for us, if you must receive payment from us, you'll work the full hours.
Oh, you're getting a fair whack out of me, madam, I do assure you. This morning, par exemple, I was in Islington, continuing my very delicate discussions with Miss Katie Joyner.
I have never heard of Miss Katie Joyner.
Oh, surely, madam.
But even if I had, I cannot conceive of a situation in which I would wish you to have discussions with her.
Well, madam, your son is fully informed of the situation.
My son is not here. My son has not been here for the past 3 days. My son has been corrupted by your mother. He's staying with her, I suppose.
Oh, no, madam. He's staying with Richard Burton.
Richard Burton?
Linguist, explorer. Take a look at this.
It's a handbill.
Correct. An announcement of future publications.
Whose future publications?
Ours. Exciting, eh?
You're mad.
They always say that about men of genius.
Also?
Yes?
You're fired.
Morning, Mother.
Gerald?
Greetings,
Oh,
heretic. Bora vada.
Ah, and Mr. Burton, too.
What has happened?
Well, Mother, I've been to hell and back.
Gerald, darling, you're not looking quite in the pink.
Oh, Cordelia, if I were to tell you the full frightfulness of the last few days...
I do hope you will, darling. I love horror stories.
Roaming, wandering down dark alleys and rodent-infested passages, encountering all manner of evil-smelling, blaspheming, undesirable people. Oh, and we think we saw Charles Dickens, too, with a notebook. And then, after incidents and misfortunes and sleepless nights, we at last reached the office, and there was my mother in the extremities of distress.
The poor dear.
She says that if things go on this way, she's certain to suffer a fatal recurrence of her heart complaint.
Oh, how dreadful.
Perhaps...
Yes, darling?
Perhaps if Primus were to consider some other profession...
Oh, no, darling, I don't think so. Publishing, he's decided, is exactly up his paternoster row, and he's achieved so much already.
Well, he's made an impact on the firm, that's undeniable.
Nothing can be gained in life without risk, without change, without a sense of adventure. Don't you agree, darling?
Absolutely. And for you, my sweetest.
And for Primus.
I would risk everything. Almost. Perhaps he'd like to go to India.
India, darling?
He could set up a branch of the firm there. Or perhaps I could.
Gerald, sir, Mr. Spavin, good evening. You know, I'm a little worried about the Burton.
Yes.
He's having a bit of a bad trot.
He's a wayward genius, darling, a man apart.
He drinks.
As per un poisson. He takes opium, too.
He's depressed.
He's thoroughly disorganized.
His head's up his fundament.
Myself, I can't see him discovering the source of the Nile.
Myself, I can't see him discovering the source of the Thames.
If I were you, darling, I'd tell him to postpone the trip till the 1860s.
No, Mother, can't do. I've got the whole publicity apparatus set up. Advertising space booked, posters printed, notices sent out to the papers. No, can't pull out now. Ah, Burton. Sit down. Care for a chop?
No, thanks, Effendi. Just had a gutful of chicken kebabs.
Ah. Glad you could come. I've got a little proposition to make.
Oh, yeah?
Excuse me, sir. That's a no-smoking table.
It's all right. It's only opium. When I made my world-famous pilgrimage to Mecca in the guise of a certain Dr. Abdallah... by the way, the African trip, when am I getting paid?
You're not.
Not? Why not?
You're not going.
Not going? Why not going?
Well, Dick, the plain truth is, you're just not fit.
What? Infidel! Desert rat!
Hard lines. Saddens me just as much as it saddens you. Of course, if you don't make make the trip, that is, if you don't appear to make the trip, much effort of mine will go down the privy, and I'll miss out on the winnings. Therefore, we are to resort to subterfuge.
What? Subterfuge? Oh, yes, that's the stuff.
The African Queen will leave from Tilbury, but you won't be on it. You'll stay behind, acquire a new identity.
Aha!
For 2 years, while you're meant to be on safari, you'll be another person. Here. You'll need a disguise, naturellement.
Yes, that's right. I shall acquire a cap and grubby threads, and shall go and dwell among the Cockney folk, and after a few days shall begin to converse with them quite fluently. Hello, me old ginger. Mind the apples and pears. Oh, but what about the book of the trip?
The book? Don't worry, Effendi. I'll take care of that. Chapter 1, Jungle Fever. The first day it was very, very hot. In the morning I shot an elephant. In the afternoon there was an outbreak of malaria and restlessness among the natives. In the evening I shot another elephant. And a native. Enter.
Good afternoon.
Miss Joyner.
I've come about the biography.
I'm so chuffed.
It's going to be in 2 volumes. And I want 3,500 for the pair.
3,500? Whose secret life is this? God's?
The fee for the first volume shall be paid in advance. And I'll receive half profits after the sale of 10,000 copies.
Right.
Also, I shall have the right to grant publication of juicy extracts in a national newspaper.
In return, you must be present at the launch party, must attend a minimum of 5 book-signing sessions, wine and nibbles to be provided, and must make yourself available for interviews with all reputable periodicals. Agreed?
Agreed.
Splendid. Prime cut. So, Miss Joyner, it simply remains for you to divulge the subject of your intended biography, and then we can draw up a contract.
Richard Burton, The Secret Life of.
What?
Richard Francis Burton, linguist, explorer.
Yes.
He set off for Africa on Tuesday, I believe, on a venture funded by your own firm.
Yes.
Extraordinary man.
A wayward genius.
I suspect he suffered a traumatic experience in childhood.
Oh, hundreds of them.
Hello, mate. How's things?
Why, it's, my old friend from the eel and pie shop.
Like me daisy roots, do you? Got 'em all for geezer in the old Kent Road. Hello, missus. Nice bonnet.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Katie Joyner, and yours, I think, is Richard Burton.
Miss Joyner! Miss Joyner!
Yes, Mr. Primus?
What is your plan at the moment, exactly?
My plan at the moment, exactly, is to write a vicious expose of Mr. Burton in 2.5 weeks max, and dash off with it to Chapman and Hall. The Secret Life of Dick Burton. It's going to be a big one.
Yes, well, pretty big.
You know, I don't think the bastard made it to Mecca either. Oh, Karachi. I'm not even sure his name's Richard Burton. He's the hoax of the century.
Yes, but what about the agreement we came to?
Not worth the paper it was never written on. I won't do a deal with you, sir.
What?
It was you who dreamt up the deception. You who hoped to benefit by it. You are a charlatan. You are a disgrace to the publishing profession. And I tell you, I mean to devote at least 3 chapters of my book to your shameful involvement in the fraud.
Thank you, flattered. Miss Joyner, please, think again. For the sake of poor Mr. Burton.
No.
For the sake of Spavin and all who worked there.
No! I dig deep, I tell all. I am merciless in my pursuit of the truth.
Is there nothing that will persuade you not to write the book?
Nothing, nothing.
What about money?
How much?
The first day it was very, very hot. In the morning I shot an elephant. Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
Which mentally impaired person wrote this manuscript?
Not sure, Mother. I think it came here in error.
I think so too. I think that in recent weeks a great deal has come here in error.
Good morning.
Oh, it's you.
Absolutely, darling.
And me. Morning.
Gerald, darling, I'm whisking you off to Fortnum's.
Are you?
Oh, but before you go, an update on Miss Katie Joyner.
Oh, can't the update wait?
Who is Miss Katie Joyner?
She writes biographies, darling.
But she's not writing Burton's.
Primus has bought her off, the clever boy.
Yes, in my experience there are few problems in life that grubby Gelt can't solve. The fearless seeker after truth has taken her money and run. A sad comment on humankind, eh?
Gerald, what is the buffoon talking about?
I'm talking about 3,500.
3,500?
Yes.
Oh, may I ask who's 3,500?
Spavin and Spavins, of course. It's the figure I originally agreed as the fee for the book.
And now, Gerald, Miss Joyner's getting it for not writing the book.
See, this all works out pretty satisfactorily. Nesma?
Mother!
Darling, is she all right?
Heart attack.
Oh, hard lines.
Yes, very. I think I may be having one too.
That was episode 2 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Gerald by David Horowitch, Richard Burton by Norman Rodway, Katie Joyner by Francis Jeter, and The Waiter by David Antrobus. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year,
1858.
the place,
London. Characters?
me, that is Primus, the mater,
Cordelia. Also,
Gerald Spavin of Spavin and Spavin, the publishers.
and Gerald's mother, Edith, who is very prone to heart attacks.
The mater, my mater, is worshipped and adored by Gerald Spavin of Spavin and Spavin, and in consequence of his infatuation with her, I'm of Spavin and Spavin, the publishers, too. And I tell you, my commercial flair and dynamism is causing quite a stir.
Absolutely, darling.
So now, read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, David Horowitch as Gerald, and David Timpson as Wilkie Collins. Episode 3, The Man in White.
Who are you? Why are you sitting at the receptionist's desk?
Oh, good morning, madam. Which desk would you like me at?
I don't want you at any desk. Who are you?
The name is Simeon Wilmot Half, madam.
You are trespassing. Please leave immediately, or I'll be obliged to call the police.
Oh, but madam, I am an employee of the company.
You are not.
I assure you I am, as from this morning. The title of my position...
Gerald?
Yes, mother?
...is Junior Fiction Editor and Deputy Marketing Manager.
Come here.
Yes, mother?
It's the most perfect job for me. It really is.
Gerald?
Yes, mother?
Have you asked this person to join the firm?
No, mother.
There you are, young man.
It wasn't me who asked him, it was Primus.
Primus?
In person. Morning, Mrs. Spavin. Morning, Mr. Spavin. Gerald. Morning, Simeon. Anything wrong?
Love. Love is... I once had some gorgeous lines about love in a play I was in with dear old Spencer Stradling. Love is... Love is... Anyway, I knew it was love. Knew it from the moment Gerald looked at me. I could see it in those sad, tired eyes of his. He sends me flowers, frequently. The house looks like Kew Gardens. And he writes long, long letters, which I don't always get to the end of. And he's been so, so helpful to dearest Primus. Oh, look! Mr. Wilkie Collins, coming out of the apothecary's. Stop, please, driver! Cooey! Wilkie!
Dear lady!
Wilkie's a writer and a person of restricted growth, aside from his beard, which has sprouted prodigiously, and he is a dear, dear friend of mine. We met last week at a party. Do jump aboard!
Thank you.
What have you bought?
That is drops.
Cough sweets?
No, laudanum. For my gout.
Oh, you poor thing.
I've got it in the eyes. Look.
Good grief! They're like red-hot coals. Now, darling, your place or mine?
Simeon's principal tasks will be to read unsolicited works of fiction.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
Assist in developing treatments.
I want these two people out of the building.
Identify trends and genres. Conduct extensive market research. Assess and anticipate costs and revenues. And set up a vigorous, energetic sales and publicity team.
It's the perfect job for me.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
I think I've got my heart problem again.
Also...
yes. Also, Simeon will be assistant editor of our new fortnightly periodical, Primus's Potpourri.
Primus's Potpourri?
Which is to be a magical miscellany of stories, reviews, features, gossip.
Young man, we already put out a periodical from these offices. It is called Spavin's Weekly Purificator, incorporating the last Trump and the teetotal times, and it has a steady circulation of 50,000. May I also remind you that this firm publishes religion, and nothing but religion, and has been doing so since 1749. Spavin and Spavin has never published fiction. It has never published magical miscellanies, and I pray to God it never will.
Well, sorry. Strange, very strange. You see, Mr. Spavin and I did agree all this earlier.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
Did you make such an agreement?
Not such an agreement as such.
Oh, Mr. Spavin, sir. Shame, shame.
There was a discussion on the matter.
At the conclusion of which you said, interesting ideas, go ahead, young man, and good luck to you. Show us what you're made of.
No, I said it might be possible, after consultation with my mother, to make one or two small changes to the firm's publishing policy by way of testing the water.
Exactement, my point entirely. Now, I've told Simeon that we'd be prepared to offer him £5 a week.
Rising to 6 in April.
4 weeks holiday each year.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother?
Travelling expenses and luncheon vouchers.
Take me to the sofa.
Darling, would you like tea, sherry, gin or beer?
I am familiar with and fond of all of the above, but my bottle of Batley's offers the possibility of new thrills, new dangers. So I'll opt for the drops.
Gorgeous. I think I'll join you.
It says 3 drops of the drops 3 times a day.
Yes, but what precisely is a drop?
Can't help you, I'm afraid. Say when.
Darling, I've been meaning to ask you, is it true you're living in sin?
Oh, not exactly. I'm in Albany Street.
Oh.
By the park, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She and I have entered into a genuine, meaningful relationship, which is founded on love and affection rather than the artificial constraints of matrimony.
But which allows for other meaningful relationships to be pursued at the same time. Gorgeous, darling. Oh, when? How was it for you, darling? Are your eyes any better?
My eyes? Oh, no. But some of my other parts are quite transformed. Darling.
Hello?
Such sensations.
Such visions.
Phantasms of the mind.
Pulsations of the flesh.
Hello, I'm Primus.
I know, darling.
I'm Wilkie Collins. Or am I?
Wilkie writes stories, darling.
Top rank. I'll publish them.
Well, this is where you are.
Correct. Nice room, nice view.
It's my mother's room.
Correct. How is the mother?
Not very well.
Hard lines.
But she's determined to be up and about again soon.
Oh, damned hard lines. Much as I love the boy, Simeon, sharing a broom cupboard with him isn't much fun. So, you'd like to ask me about Primus's Potpourri?
What? No, that.
It's going to be good, Gerald. It's going to break circulation records. It's going to beat Blackwood's and Household Words into a cocked hat. Simeon? The main item, let me tell you, is a sensational serial by the celebrated best-selling author Wilkie Collins, whose titles include... whose titles are too well known to require mention. He's a close personal friend of mine.
Indeed.
You rang a cracked bell?
Simeon, tell Gerald what's in the first ish of the Potpourri, aside from the sensational serial.
Well?
There's my piece, of course, entitled What? Not Another Periodical.
And there's a poem I wrote when I was at school about a storm and a shipwreck and a mountain and a ruined temple. The welkin heaved with thunder and the ship's boards shivered. I can't go on.
He tends to faint when confronted by things of beauty. Now, Gerald, let's talk advertising budget.
Have you read Primus's Potpourri yet, darling?
No.
Circulation figures aren't available yet, apparently, but I must have purchased 20 copies at least, so sales can't be that bad.
Cordelia, darling.
Oh, more flowers. Thank you, darling. I'm so proud of Primus. Are you proud of Primus, darling?
Yes, rather. Cordelia, I came here tonight.
You did, and it's so very, very sweet of you. Oh, you must read Mr. Collins's piece, The Serial. Magnificent, isn't the word?
Darling, I want to ask you...
It's about a fellow called Hartright who's a teacher of drawing, and he's... Actually, not a great deal happens in the first few pages.
Cordelia...
But then Mr. Hartright takes a midnight walk, and just south of Hampstead Heath, after he's turned onto the London Road...
Cordelia...
Suddenly...
Will you marry me?
Suddenly, a dog with red eyes, suffering from gout, perhaps, comes pounding out of the shadows and grips Hartright's arm in its slavering jaws. End of episode 1. To be continued. Yes, of course I'll marry you, darling.
Nice room. Nice view.
Yes, top rank. Episode 2?
Not yet.
How much have you written?
Not a lot.
How much precisely?
Precisely. Not a word.
Don't like to hurry you, Wilkie, but the deadline's Tuesday. Can't keep the whole nation waiting. There'll be civil disturbances. So, take a seat at my nice desk. A paper, a pen, and ink. You'll have it done in no time.
Primus.
Yes, Wilkie?
I must tell you, I've made a serious error. My only excuse is you have a very persuasive tongue, and your mother's so charming. And also there was Batley's drops.
Please sit down.
You see, I never do it this way. Never. I always ensure when writing a work of fiction that each step on the journey through the narrative is known to me before I ever start. No afterthoughts, no changes of mind, everything mapped out. Oh, I should never have agreed to the idea. Heavens, I've got 3 pieces to write for Charlie D before the end of the month.
Mr. Collins, are you by any chance making a request for more money?
No, damn it, I am not. That's a most improper suggestion, sir. We came to an agreement.
Oh, we did.
And if I could, I'd honour it.
Oh, you can, believe me. Have a seat. Oh. Now, pick up the pen and dip it in the ink. Now, where were we?
Just south of Hampstead Heath.
Ah, yes. Ferocious dog on the loose. What excitement. Pray continue.
How much more money?
£1,000.
My reason for asking is simply to discover if the prospect of extra cash might act as a stimulus to my creativity. But no, nothing doing.
Did you try Batley's drops on him, darling?
And mesmerism, and the threat of a dog with slavering jaws. No go. He's thrown in the towel, torn up the contract, and returned his initial fee.
Isn't that vexing? And the story promised so much.
It did. But I won't abandon him, Mother. I've had an ingenious notion.
Of course you have, darling.
In each ish of the Potpourri, the tale which we Wilkie began will progress with a different author.
Oh, clever boy.
Britain's literary giants. They'll all, in turn, be working for me.
Wonderful. Who'll write the next episode?
Wilkie, to give me a few names. Tony Trollope, George Eliot.
Darling, I forgot to tell you, Gerald and I are going to be married.
Top rank, hearty congrats. Charlotte Bronte, who is a close personal friend of mine, of course. Church wedding?
Oh, yes. We have to do it properly. Will you want to give me away, do you think, or be best man?
Hello, who are you?
George Eliot.
You're not.
Yeah, straight up. A bit late, sorry.
Late? My dear George, I only telegraphed an hour ago. Come in, come in.
This is the old woman's office.
Yes, that's right. But I'm the driving force now. So, tell me, what do you think of Primus's potpourri?
You what?
You've read Wilkie's effort, I take it? You can do better, George. I know you can. Heard great things about you. Oh, do sit down. Coffee? Tea? Hot chocolate?
Look, I've...
A beer?
Oh, well, Tar, thanks.
You know, it bucks me up no end seeing a regular geezer such as your good self making his mark in this business. Your beer.
Tar.
You're at the spearhead, I suppose, of a new, radical, urbanized generation which is kicking in the oak panel doors of stuffiness, privilege and tradition.
What? Oh, yeah, thanks. Cheers.
Have a seat, please. Paper, pen, ink. Our hero is just south of Hampstead Heath, if you recall.
Tityrus, by Simeon W. Half. The ancient columns in profusion lay, marble memorials of a better day, and sheep and goats. Primus,
Simeon?
There's a noisy person in your office.
Yes, it's George Eliot. He's got 20 pages to finish by Tuesday, and he don't fancy the pressure.
Oh. The same George Eliot, you mean, who lives with George Henry Lewis and writes for Blackwoods?
The very same, if you say so. Oh, it's all right to go in. I've chained him to the desk.
Oh. Hello?
Help!
Primus, there's something terribly wrong here.
Advise me.
George Eliot is a woman.
A woman? A woman? Ah, that explains everything. I'll go in and have a quiet word. Oh. George. George. How are you? Nice room. Nice view.
It's not fair. It's not bloody fair.
I know, George. Life's dealt you a funny old hand, n'est-ce pas? Tell me, George, what happened? Was your tough, gruff pater desperate for a boy? Did the mater compel you to catch newts and climb trees just to make the pater happy?
You what?
Georgie, it's time to grasp the nettle, bite the bullet, face the music. It's time to say, good morning, reality. Hello, me. Do you know what I mean?
No, I bloody don't.
Georgie, listen. Underneath it all, underneath the shirt and trews, you're a woman.
I'm a what?
It's true. Straight up. I have it on the most undoubted authority. Abandon this useless struggle, George. Confront your sexuality. Embrace it. Yield to it. Glory in your gynecology. Will you do all this for me, lovey? Because if you do, Georgie dear, I promise you, all of a sudden, you'll be such a healthier, happier person. You'll discover your true voice. You'll unleash the creativity that's locked inside you. You'll be able to respond to the admittedly rather tight deadline that's been imposed on you for the next ish of Primus's potpourri.
Help!
Oh, you'll get plenty of that. Stay right where you are, my dear. I'm going to find you a frock.
Mother, I've some news to give you.
Well?
It's news which may surprise you and be a cause of much delight, I hope.
I hope so, too. It is a long while since I was delighted. It is a long while since I was well. I ought not to be out, really.
You ought not.
I ought to be in bed. But the work won't get done by itself. Of course, we know why I've been ill, and why you seem to have lost your grip on things.
Do we?
It's all that woman's fault. The actress. Mother of the cretin. The plain truth is, Gerald, she's used you most shamefully.
Used me? Oh, I don't think so.
Of course she has. Her boy should be in an asylum, not a publishing house. What is this news of yours?
Tomorrow, I think, Mother.
There is an obnoxious smell in here.
Yes.
Who is that? Someone is bleating in my room. Gerald, I hope I am not about to have another unpleasant experience.
Good heavens!
Who is it?
It's the apprentice from the printers.
That's right. I've come for them page proofs. Help!
Why is he wearing a dress?
Allow me to explain. Morning, Mrs. Spavin. Morning, Mr. Spavin. Gerald. Morning, George.
Help!
Oh, phew.
Gerald?
Yes, Mother. Have a seat.
Madness! Abomination!
Primus, get the smelly transvestite out of there.
Of course, I've heard all about you, my dear. You're a very, very talented lady.
She's a very, very willful lady, and she's caused a lot of trouble.
Yes, darling. But once she's sorted herself out, she'll go on to great things, I'm sure. Write some of the best novels in the English language, etc. How long will you be staying with us, my dear?
Till Tuesday, Mother, if necessary.
Gorgeous, darling. I must say, George, that's a very nice dress you're wearing.
It's one of yours, Mother.
Is it really? Well, it looks much, much better on you, my dear. White suits you. Now, where will George be sleeping, I wonder?
She won't be. Far too busy for that. She'll be tied up in the box room.
Mother?
Yes, Gerald?
Do you remember... wait a moment.
What is that?
Batley's drops.
Batley's drops?
Cordelia swears by them. Do you remember, Mother, that yesterday I said that I had some news to give you, and that I didn't actually give you the news as such, but told you that I would do it tomorrow?
Yes, Gerald?
Well, it is tomorrow, so I must give you the news. It's, with regard to my unmarried status.
Yes, Gerald?
And an anticipated change thereto.
Oh, Gerald.
Oh, dear.
You're marrying that woman. You're marrying that woman. And you're going to have a maniac as a stepson.
Yes, something like that.
Oh, lamentation. Oh, woe. Oh.
Would you like to try the drops now, Mother?
Lamentation, woe on me. Oh.
Darling.
Darling, good evening.
Mr. Collins, sir! Mr. Collins, sir!
Oh, Primus also. How pleasant.
You've changed your mind? You've brought episode 2?
No.
Oh.
But I brought a couple of bottles of Batley's.
Gorgeous, darling.
For purposes purely medicinal.
Of course, darling. I'll fetch the glasses.
Oh, you have a guest.
It's George Eliot.
Is it now?
She's attempting to continue your work of fiction.
Good luck to her. She's obviously got to an exciting bit. Do you like my beard?
Darling, you had it on last week.
I know, but it's grown another inch. Right then. Who wants to be cured of everything?
Oh, mercy! Let me out! Oh, help!
Georgie, you're making a dreadful din, you know. We can't hear ourselves getting completely smashed.
Help!
Show me what you've written. Slide it under the door.
I've not written nothing.
Oh, Georgie, is this fair now? I do everything for you, give you counselling, unravel your sexuality, and in return, rien de rien. Not a bloody word.
Let me out!
No, never. You've made me angry now.
Oh, I'm going to die here, in my youth, in a box room, in a dress.
Correct. Oh, and while you're doing it, keep the noise down.
So, I suppose it's time to say buonanotte.
Well, if it is, darling, you say it very beautifully.
Oh, Cordelia, such stirrings. Is it me, or is it the Batleys?
darling.
Darling, darling. Oh, luscious lips.
Big beard.
Bountiful bosom.
Hot hands.
Gorgeous, darling.
Oh, by the way, darling, did I tell you I'm getting married?
Mamma mia. You don't love whoever it is, I take it?
No, darling, of course not.
Then you'll be very happy, I'm sure.
If I wasn't getting married, do you suppose you might have asked me to enter into a genuine, meaningful relationship which is founded on love and affection rather than the artificial constraints of matrimony?
Oh, yes, most certainly. In fact, I think I'll ask you anyway. The moon was full and broad in the dark blue starless sky, and the broken ground of Hampstead Heath looked wild enough in the mysterious light to be hundreds of miles away from the great city that lay beneath it. Oh, she's a darling, that Cordelia. Oh. Shame about the boy. Soon I arrived at that particular point of my walk where 4 roads meet, and I had mechanically turned in the direction of London when, in one moment...
Hello?
Oh.
Excuse me?
I turned.
Is this the way to town?
There, in the middle of the road, there, as if it had that moment sprung out of the earth or dropped from the heavens, stood the figure of a solitary woman, dressed from head to foot, in white.
I said, is this the way to town?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I've just escaped from a madhouse.
Have you, in truth?
And my name's George Eliot.
George Eliot? Ah, well, let me tell you, dear child, you're a great deal prettier than the one I know. While you were in the madhouse, Miss Eliot, were you by any chance encouraged to write the second instalment of a yarn which commenced, somewhat inauspiciously, in a periodical entitled Primus's Potpourri?
Yeah, I was, but I couldn't.
Me, likewise.
So eventually I managed to pick the door lock with the nib of the pen what I'd been given.
That was putting the pen to clever use, my dear.
And I scarpered.
You brave thing. Now look, we'll find a cab and we'll get you back home in no time. My home, if you like.
Oh, that's very civil.
Believe me, my dear, it will give me great pleasure. She's a sweetie. She really is. And because of our chance encounter, I do believe I could write that second installment after all. And more besides. A woman in white. Escaped from a madhouse. Meets our gallant hero by the heath. Yes, that's the stuff. But I won't waste it on Primus and his potpourri. No. This is big time, this is. This is sensational. Cab! Cab!
That was episode 3 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Gerald by David Horowitch, Wilkie Collins by David Timpson, Simeon by Charles Simpson, and George Eliot by David Antrobus. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
This video was uploaded to the channel, Thinking Out Loud. Please like, comment and subscribe to the Thinking Out Loud channel. Thank you.
The year?
1859.
The place?
London. Characters?
Oh, you should know us by now.
Read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, David Horowitch as Gerald, and Maggie Steed as Cordelia. Episode 4, The Prosser Prize.
I am jealous, very horribly. The reason is I am in love. In love for the first time in my life. And the woman I love, Cordelia, appears in return to have a certain regard for me. But now, you see, having found this prize, I am desperate to keep it. I am sickened with fear that I may lose what I never dreamed I could win. You know, it occurs to me that I may have been happier before, when life was dull, when I wasn't in love.
Gerald?
I was happier at work, I think.
Gerald, I shall need some crates.
Some crates, Mother?
Yes. I'm packing up my possessions from the office. I'm leaving the firm.
Oh, Mother!
I want nothing more to do with it. Nothing. I shall sit at home and dream of better times. Oh, Gerald.
Oh, Mother.
Why must you make that vile boy a partner?
By vile boy, she means Primus, my dear Cordelia's son. He'll be a junior partner only, Mother.
Why must he bring along with him that other person, that sexual abnormality?
She means Simeon W. Huff, Primus's assistant.
Why have you stood by while Spavin and Spavin of Paternoster Row, publishers of religious works in 1749, has been dragged into the mire? Why have you allowed this fine, fine institution to be desecrated, despoiled, disgraced?
Mother...
Look! There is the proof of it on your desk.
Ah, yes.
The shame! The shame! A secular work under the imprint, alas, of Spavin and Spavin of Paternoster Row.
Yeah.
A work of fiction. A vile perversion of a book, which I have no intention of reading, by the way. But I know the title, and it includes the word pleasure.
Ah, Simeon, good day. Care for a chop?
No, thanks. I eat neither fish nor fowl nor anything that creeps, crawls, hops, grazes, or gambols upon the earth. Mrs. S. is clearing out her office.
Yes, and I wish she'd hurry up, because I'm in next. Simeon, regarding Potatoes and Pleasure by Josephine Winthrop.
Oh, Potatoes and Pleasure, yes, yes! I remember the very day that the manuscript arrived in the office. It was written in a bold, expressive, almost masculine hand. I devoured the work in one sitting, with tears streaming down my cheeks. Here, I was certain, was a strikingly original voice, a provocative mind, offering a sharp and yet immensely moving literary photogravure of contemporary mores.
How many copies have we sold?
Here were new rhythms, new cadences.
How many copies, Simeon?
23.
23? Out of a print run of 800.
Here was a tale which reached out and touched my heart.
Here is a dud, I think. Something must be done.
Cordelia, I have a confession to make.
Gorgeous, darling. I do love confessions.
It's a terrible confession.
Oh, I'm particularly fond of terrible confessions.
I'm not sure I can bring myself to utter it.
Do try, Gerald, darling. Otherwise I shall have to imagine the most appalling scenarios.
Well, it's with regard to a private detective.
Yes, darling. What have you and he been up to?
I've been employing him.
For what purpose, darling?
To spy on you.
To spy? On me? How exciting.
It's very wrong of me, very wrong. I know the reason. It's because I'm so in love with you, adore you. I can't believe that somebody as fine and wonderful as you could have come into my life.
Gorgeous, darling.
And now that we're to be married and everything seems so, well...
Gorgeous, darling.
I've become insanely jealous.
Darling.
Every man in London, I'm convinced, is plotting to take you away from me. But at the same time, of course, I remember what a fine, wonderful woman you are. And I know you'd never dream of being unfaithful. But then again, I think, what right have I, useless and pitiful as I am, to be joined to such a fine, wonderful woman? Oh, Cordelia, I couldn't bear it if I were to lose you.
Gerald, darling, it would be absolutely dreadful for you, I'm sure. So tell me, what has your detective detected?
Mrs. Fairbairn? Mrs. Fairbairn? Are you still there? Aha! The old witch has flown at last. It's mine. All mine.
Primus!
Hang on a bit. Give me a chance to sit down and put my feet up on the desk, will you? Enter.
Nice room, nice view.
Thank you.
Primus, what about the Prosser Prize for Fiction?
What about it?
The prize is awarded for the best novel published in the last 12 months, and it's worth £1,000.
Oh, yes, I could use that.
Well, the money goes to the author, actually.
Damn.
But, Primus, if Potatoes and Pleasure were to be entered for the competition and were to win, the work would at last receive the public recognition it so richly deserves.
Ah, yes. And the bookshops and circulating libraries would be begging us for copies, and we'd shift that pile of potatoes in no time. The only difficulty, Simeon, is this. How the hell is the book going to win when it's about as entertaining as a brick wall?
You haven't read it.
Well, of course I haven't. My job's to sell books, not read them. And I certainly don't read them if their sales figures fail to justify the chopping down of a tree. Still, let's enter the puny thing. We've got nothing to lose.
September the 14th. The woman...
Darling, I wish he wouldn't keep on calling me that. It's so very unfriendly.
The woman was seen at the door of her house in East Finchley, kissing goodbye several times to a tall male in his 40s.
Tall male? That could have been you, darling.
Carrying a black bag.
Do you not have a black bag, darling?
No.
I shall have to buy you one.
And I'm 5'9¾". Perhaps he was your doctor.
Of course, my doctor.
How old is he?
70, darling.
A plumber, then. Solicitor, life insurance salesman.
Oh, any one of those, I'm sure.
Do you usually kiss them goodbye?
Always. They're absolute sweeties.
September the 15th. The woman seen in a boat on the Serpentine together with a young man wearing a blazer and straw hat.
Primus, no doubt.
And a distinctive scar across his right cheek.
Ah.
Perhaps he's a relative.
Darling, that's exactly who he is.
A nephew.
From foreign parts. I was showing him the delights of London. Oh, darling, is there very much more of this?
30 pages.
That's so tedious.
And so distasteful.
I'm certain that the most innocent explanations can be found in every single case.
Yes. Yes, I'm certain of it too. Oh, my dearest Cordelia, I have treated you in a most shameful fashion. No more, I promise. I shall dispense with the services of the private detective immediately.
Primus, read the Prosser Prize.
Yes, Simeon?
I feel I ought to advise you about the opposition. I'm afraid it's not good news.
Never mind. Tell me, and then I'll shoot you.
The Virginians by William Makepeace Thackeray.
Never heard of him.
Inclining towards the post-meridium of his career, perhaps, but he's in with a chance. He's at 9-2.
Next.
Dr. Thorne.
Never heard of him.
By Anthony Trollope. Another Barsetshire tale from the bearded postman. 4-1.
Next.
A Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens. 5-2 favourite.
What are the odds on potatoes, then?
150-1.
Stake your hackney end of terrace on it, Simeon. I am minded to make it a winner.
Sir, the regulations and procedures of the Prosser Prize were set up by my husband.
No, madam. Not interested in the rules. You, I believe, are by tradition the chairman of the adjudicating panel.
I am, sir.
To you falls the responsibility of coaxing a consensus out of your judges. You, madam, have the casting vote if the judges are undecided. To put it bluntly, if you like a book well enough, it'll win the prize. Out of the current bunch, madam, is there a book you like well enough?
Sir. My views concerning the respective merits of the various entries must at this stage remain absolutely secret. All I can say is that in contrast to last year, when I thought there were rather too many books about growing up in Ireland, the range and breadth of the current crop has been quite staggering.
What about Pleasure and Potatoes by Josephine Winthrop, published by Spavin and Spavin?
Sir, I suppose that you have a special interest in the book?
You suppose right, madam. Now, a 100-word synopsis, in case you lost the plot, an article by Simeon W. Huff entitled Pleasure and Potatoes, the Apotheosis of Mid-19th Century Literature, and finally, the transcript of an interview with Miss Winthrop. I wrote this book, she says, so that I might have something good to read. Impressive, eh?
Sir.
Mrs. Prosser.
If it was your intention in coming here to persuade me of this book's claim to the Prosser Prize for Fiction, then you do me and the prize a great disservice. I am not to be won over by special pleading.
Huh?
My integrity shall not be violated. Good day to you.
Of course, Simeon, it's all horse manure. The chief purpose of the prize is to confer beneficial publicity upon Mrs. Prosser's husband and his ever-expanding sanitary company, so that every time we take a book to the privy, his name should immediately spring to mind. But I am not to be put off. Plan B.
What is Plan B?
To do down the opposition.
Sir, this is most discourteous.
Mrs. Prosser, please. I would not have trespassed upon your goodwill a second time if I was not upon an errand of great importance. Here, a few little critiques I've put together based on research by Simeon W. Huff. Par exemple, Trollope's Dr. Thorne, A Cure for Insomnia.
Oh.
I understand, by the way, that Trollope stole the plot from his brother, and Dickens stole his plot from a playwright called Phillips, and Thackeray, being too mindful of his honest reputation to filch from the works of others, filched from his own.
Sir, please desist.
You may also be interested to know that I have employed the services of a private detective.
A what?
These are his findings. The dossier on Dickens is a particularly juicy read.
Do come in. Your name, I understand, is Prosser?
Ozymandias Prosser, of Ozymandias Prosser and Company, manufacturers of elegant and reliable sanitary ware. Your appliance, let me tell you, is neither elegant nor reliable. Here's our latest brochure.
Thank you, darling.
Now, madam, 2 weeks ago, I hired the services of a private detective.
Well, darling, private detectives seem to be very much a la mode.
The reason I hired him was this. I had discerned a change in my wife's demeanour. She'd become, to be blunt, far happier than the quality of our relationship merited. She was, I surmised, deceiving me.
Did the private detective confirm your worst suspicions?
He did. He discovered that a certain primus of the high road, East Finchley, has visited my wife on a number of recent occasions. Therefore, madam, I come here with the intention of confronting the said primus and doing the bastard a permanent injury.
But, darling, the bastard is also my son.
That, madam, is a most unhappy coincidence. But you see, I am a self-made man who has acquired his fortune from sanitation, and I'm not the kind of fellow to tolerate double-dealing. By the way, madam, permit me to tell you this.
Yes?
I would never have dreamed that you could be the fellow's mother. You don't look a day over 20 yourself.
Oh, what a gorgeous thing to say. Now, darling, what will you have to drink? Primus, darling, I had a deceived husband round here earlier today, and he was looking for blood.
My blood?
That was his preference. Oh, what a scene! I tore my hair, I washed his bespoke shoes with a mother's tears, I pleaded, referred to youthful folly and juvenile juices, accepted his invitation to dine out with him tonight, and how do I look?
Oh, ravishing, mother.
And at last, I think, I persuaded him to show you leniency.
Who is this cove?
Who is it? Really, Primus? How many husbands' wives are you bedding at present? His name is Ozymandias Prosser.
What? The husband of Mrs. Prosser?
Him and no other. Now, I promised him very, very faithfully, darling, that you will never, never see the woman again. So when you do see her again, you will try to be discreet, won't you, darling?
Yes, I will. My God, I have been slow.
Well, I wouldn't say that, darling.
All that lit crit and such like, when I should have been doing the woman a kindness. Excuse me, Mother. Plan C. 309, 310, 311. Good morning.
Good morning. I got your notes.
Yes, and then I got yours. What a top-ranked place for a rendezvous. Brisk and so on. Long way up, long way down. Prime view. But it's a queer thing, ain't it? Erecting a monument to a fire?
It was a very bold sort of note you sent me.
What I wrote was true. Honest, no flim-flam, I swear it.
Oh, Whisper those words to me now.
What, about me loving you, you mean?
Yes!
Certainly, madam. I love you.
Oh, again!
I love you, I love you.
Oh, it isn't true, of course. I am not so foolish. Kiss me. Oh, as to be susceptible to the transparent flattery of an extremely attractive young man. Oh.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
No, after the judging of the various entries for this year's Prosser Prize for Fiction.
I love you.
Can you have any hopes at all that I should be open to bribes?
Ça va, son dear, but still, nonetheless, I love you. Shall we decamp to a disreputable hotel? In general, I'm in favour of clothes. They keep out the chill and all that, and cover up uglinesses. But I do wish they didn't take forever to get in and out of. So many buttons and things.
Do you? Can you really love me, sir?
What? Oh, of course I do. Can. I love you. What man wouldn't?
Well, my husband.
Then your husband is a brute.
He is. He has 3 mistresses, you know.
He's a greedy brute. Ah! At last, divested.
My darling. Tell me again. Tell me you love me.
I love you.
Tell me you're not just saying that because I told you to, and because you want pleasure in potatoes to win the Prosser Prize for Fiction, and you think that if you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. Tell me you'll love me always.
Always. Forever. Till the moon turns blue.
Oh!
From William Makepeace Thackeray to Mrs. O. Prosser. Let me be candid with you. I am not indifferent to the outcome of the Prosser Prize. Others may scorn your annual award and declare it fatuous or unseemly. But I assure you, madam, if the prize should go to me this year, it will go to one who values it. I tell you this, dearest lady, not in any way to attempt to influence your judgment, but simply because it is the truth. And I always write the truth. P.S. I do my own illustrations too. P.P.S. A very large bunch of flowers accompanies this letter. P.P.P.S. I may die in a few years.
Darling?
Yes, Mother?
I'm getting married next week.
Oh, next week, is it?
Yes, darling. Will you be there at all?
Dearest Mater, of course. Of course I will. Did you think for one moment that I would be absent on the occasion of my mother's wedding? I'd sooner miss my own funeral. When is it?
Saturday, darling.
Saturday. Ah, now that could be awkward. Saturday is the Prosser Day of Judgment.
From Tony Trollope to Mrs. O. Prosser. Watch out, Prosser! Oh, Mrs. P, you wouldn't believe how enormously in love with life I am. I love a game of whist at the club. I love fox hunting and pillar boxes. And prizes. I never seem to get any prizes, do I? Not from you. Nothing for the Warden in 55. Nothing for Barchester Towers last year. Damn it, woman, what's your bloody problem, eh? P.S. A very large box of chocolates accompanies this letter. P.P.S. I've already eaten the Whortleberry Whirls.
If I do go to the wedding...
Mother!
If I do go, I shall wear black.
Mother!
But I think, on consideration, I shall wear black and stay at home. Oh, my poor deluded Gerald. You who are to acquire a delinquent as a stepson and make him a junior partner. Oh, your poor father. Oh, his poor father before him, and his poor father before him. Oh, woe! For the Spavins built up a fine publishing house which devoted itself exclusively to religious works, and now it is all to be thrown down. Oh, woe! Oh, the wormwood and the gall!
Oh, dear.
From Charles Dickens to Mrs. O. Prosser. Another year, another Prosser. Would it be unseemly on my part or over-acquisitive to say how much I look forward to collecting the award for the 10th time? Yours inimitably, C.D. P.S. Please find chocks and flowers as per usual. P.P.S. Thank you for your most generous contribution in aid of the fallen women of London. Rest assured, I'm doing my bit, too.
Darling?
Yes, darling?
With regard to my making Primus a junior partner at Spavin and Spavin...
Yes, darling?
Well, just recently, darling, I've been thinking of not making him a junior partner at Spavin and Spavin.
What?
Well, not for a few months.
But you bastard, darling. You promised. You promised faithfully.
I said it was very much on the cards, but having looked carefully at your son's record of achievement since he came to Spavin and Spavin, I'm of the opinion that he needs more time to settle in.
Settle in? He's transformed the whole firm.
Settle down, then. You see, when it comes to being impetuous and rash, he rather too often is. Darling. Darling?
The wedding is off.
Oh, darling, no!
The wedding is off, Gerald. You've gone back on your word, and I'll not marry a man I can't trust.
But, darling...
Goodbye, Gerald, and despite everything, good luck.
On further reflection, though...
Yes?
Perhaps due to my own lack of business acumen, I misjudged your son. Perhaps what I saw as impetuosity and rashness is rather decisiveness and flair.
Darling, that's exactly what it is. Junior partner?
Without delay. The wedding?
It's on again.
As for A Tale of Two Cities, it was impossible for the judges not to be moved by Mr. Dickens's hymn to the power of redemption, by his wonderful portrayal of private passions set against a huge and thrilling historical backdrop.
Pity it had to lose. Get on with it, woman.
This is a beautifully crafted, wonderfully observed, unput-downable novel. With a
Prima, Simeon, there you are.
Listen, I've been in the conveniency with one of the judges, and I have to tell you...
Yes. All the lubricious details later, please.
But Prima...
Hush, boy.
And so I come to the final book, Potatoes and Pleasure.
She's left the best till last.
With this ring I thee wed, with my body I thee worship, and with all my worldly goods I thee endow.
Gorgeous, darling.
Miss Winthrop, the judges feel, possesses a strikingly original voice. A provocative mind offering a sharp and yet immensely moving literary photogravure of contemporary mores.
Yeah. Prima, shh.
Her tale is one, I think, which reaches out and touches all our hearts.
Damn. She omitted the bit about new rhythms and cadences.
Primas.
Where's the Winthrop?
She's gone up to the front. Primas.
I've written her acceptance speech. It heaps so much praise on me, I may be quite embarrassed.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud pleasure to announce the winner of this year's Prosser Prize for Fiction, sponsored by Ozymandias Prosser and Company.
Here we go.
Manufacturers of elegant and reliable sanitary ware.
Yes.
And the prize goes to A Rather Boring Continental Hotel by Davina Rivers.
Oh, well.
What? Who?
Mr. Primus.
A word in your tiny lug, if I may. You're a treacherous toad. You're a ratting rat. You persuaded me to do tunnels and trains with you under false pretenses.
What? Do you mean, Mr. Primus, that you do not love me after all? That you thought when you pressed your attentions upon me that there would be a quid pro quo?
Snake! Weasel!
By the way, have you read A Rather Boring Continental Hotel?
Of course I haven't. 200 to 1, I gather. It had less damn chance than potatoes. No one's ever heard of Davina Rivers. Where is she? I'll kick her.
She's over there, by the pot plants. The young gentleman standing with her is Mr. Newby, her publisher.
Oh, yes.
Man of great charm and absolutely enormous energy.
What? More than me, you mean? The bastard!
Primus, it's very good of you to come. Champagne?
Please, lots. Well, Mr. Spavin, Gerald, or even Step Peter, this is all very pleasant, very quiet. Nice touch having the reception at the office. Cheers! To you and me. Is Mother around?
Which one?
Well, either, really.
Mine stayed at home. Yours has left for Paris.
Paris?
Yes, for a fortnight.
On a Todd?
No, with a very old friend. Ozzy...
Oh, Ozzy Prosser, the privy person.
She didn't want to go at all, but she thought she ought to oblige him. That's your mother for you.
Yes. Who got the bouquet?
I did.
Ah. No prize for potatoes, by the way. We was robbed. But I've had an idea. We'll start a book club and give away copies by way of a free introductory offer. That should do it.
Well, if you'll excuse me, Primus, I have a train to catch.
Oh, yes? Where are you off to?
Folkestone.
Oh, of course, your honeymoon. While you're there, Step Peter, I think I'll organise some office refurbishment.
Oh, my office, do you mean?
No, mine. New wallpaper, really big desk, lots of pictures, brass plaque on the door. What fun! So, have a good time.
Yes, I'll try.
And don't worry about a thing. I'm in charge. I can handle it. Publish and be damned. That's the way. Au revoir, Step Peter.
That was the final episode of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, and Gerald by David Horowitz. Simeon was played by Charles Simpson, Mrs. Prosser by Frances Jeter, Prosser by Geoffrey Whitehead, and Thackeray by David Antrobus. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year?
1860.
The place?
London. Characters?
Me, that is Gerald Spavin, of the publishing firm Spavin and Spavin, and my mother...
Mrs. Edith Spavin.
Also, there is Cordelia, my wife, an actress by profession, and Primus.
Her idiot boy by a previous marriage.
He's my junior partner.
Formerly, Spavin and Spavin published religious works. But since I was forced out of the firm...
Well, we publish anything that sells, really.
God, however, is avenged, for nothing that they publish does sell. So now...
Read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, David Horowitz as Gerald, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Charles Simpson as Simeon, and Joan Sims as Mrs. Quirk. Episode 1. Self-Help.
Primus?
Mr. Spavin, Gerald, Step Peter, do come in. How are you?
Anxious, distressed, depressed. For want of three better words. I said the same, you may recall, this morning when you were getting up and I was leaving for work.
Of course. Mon Dieu, how time flies.
I ought to tell you that when I married my darling Cordelia and invited her to share the Spavin home, her son, the wretched Primus, came too. In fact, it seems to me the wretched Primus is more of a presence in the Spavin home than Cordelia herself, for she, being a gregarious soul, has a tendency towards the West End. Primus?
Step Peter?
I should like to convene a meeting.
By all means. I'll get Simeon to consult my diary.
This Simeon is a friend of Primus, whom he has taken on to assist him. They compete with each other in uselessness.
What kind of meeting is this, Peter? Editorial, marketing, health and efficiency?
Crisis.
Crisis?
What crisis?
Morning, Simeon. Tell me, Simeon, do we have a small fenetra of opportunity 3 weeks hence?
Let me see.
Primus, I want the meeting today. Now.
Today? Now? Good heavens, that sort of crisis. Simeon, you will be clerk, s'il vous plaît. Ring for teas, will you? The floor is yours. Speak.
Thank you. The situation is this. We are in crisis.
So I gather.
Since you joined the firm, Primus, costs have risen by 77%.
One must expend, you know, to expand.
Oh, very good, sir.
And income has fallen by a similar figure.
A blip, merely.
That's it, a blip. Project your figures over the next 5 years and...
5 years? We shall be fortunate if we last 5 months. Now, I have drawn up a list of emergency measures. Proposal 1... we move to smaller accommodation.
No.
We like it here.
Proposal 2, we put an end to hospitality lunches.
Out of the question.
Hospitality lunches are an essential feature of a publisher's modus operandi.
Any more impossible suggestions, Peter?
Proposal 3, we cut the number of regular resident staff and buy in external services as and when required.
What?
Afternoon.
Mrs. Quirk, Mr. Spavin is intending to introduce widespread redundancies.
Well, then he's a cruel, flinty-hearted tyrant, and he'll not be receiving his lovely, soothing cup of tea and crunchy biscuit.
Oh, now look, this was a proposal, merely.
A tea, Mr. Primus?
Thank you, Mrs. Quirk.
Tea, Mr. Simeon.
Thank you.
And this one, yes. Is for me.
Oh, dear.
May I speak?
Speak, Simeon.
In my view, Mr. Spavin, you are looking at the problem...
If problem there be.
Crunchy biscuit, Mr. Primus.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Gill.
From the wrong end of the telescope.
Well said. Meaning?
Well, instead of contemplating ways of saving money, we should be looking at ways of making it.
Oh, well said again.
Crunchy biscuit, Mr. Simeon.
Thank you.
The lottery. People make money on the lottery.
They do indeed, Mrs. Quirk. Useful point. Any other business? No? Splendid. So, Step Peter. Happy?
I have been driven out. I've been expelled from the family firm. I must stay at home and wait and pray, heavy at heart. And all the while, Spavin and Spavin, publisher since 1749, hastens towards disaster. Not only that...
Darling, there you are.
But I must share this home of mine with Gerald's newly acquired wife and son.
Darling, why are you sitting glumly in the shadows?
Madam?
Darling, please, Cordelia. We're all family now. I'm going.
For good?
For dinner.
With Gerald?
No, darling, with Fruity Firkins.
Fruity Firkins?
He's an actor.
Madam?
Yes, darling.
What you are doing is irresponsible, indefensible, and highly contemptible.
Heavens, why is that, darling?
You are married to my son. You took solemn vows of matrimony. You have duties and obligations.
If you say so, darling. But I never promised I'd become a nun.
Ah. Evening, ladies.
Had a nice day at the office, darling?
No.
Gorgeous, darling. Mustache.
Mother, why are you sitting in the dark?
I am weighed down with lowness of spirits and blackness of thoughts.
I think I'll join you, if I may.
Your wife is intending to have dinner with a man.
Ah, yes. Augustus someone, I believe. Or is it Frederick?
Neither. It is a fruity someone.
Oh, what a woman. So many friends, so much admired.
Leave her, Gerald, please, before it is too late. Throw her out on the street where she belongs.
I can't do that to her, Mother. She's my wife, and I love her and so forth.
Well, then cast off that idiot boy.
But if I do that, Mother, then my wife will leave me. Shall I tell you why you are unhappy, Mother?
Aside, you mean, from the fact that my son is married to Jezebel and has allowed the firm of Spavin and Spavin to decline into financial ruin?
You're at a loose end, Mother. Now that you are no longer active in the firm, you find that you are prone to dark thoughts in dark corners. You need something of a diversion.
I put my trust in the Lord, Gerald, for he is my light and my salvation. He sitteth above the water flood, and joy cometh in the morning.
Let us hope so, Mother. But in the meantime, have you thought about taking up a hobby?
Ah, Simeon. Salut. Sit down.
Thank you, Primus.
This is a working lunch.
Is it?
Yes. You're working and I'm having lunch.
Oh.
I've been glancing over this action sheet you kindly drew up after our crisis meeting 3 weeks ago. Item 1. Find a dead certain cast-iron money-spinning publishing sensation.
Yes. Tricky.
Item 2. Find another dead certain cast-iron money-spinning publishing sensation. Any suggestions?
Well, I was conversing recently with Mrs. Quirk, and she revealed that she knows a man who knows Prince Albert.
Ah, and who might he be?
Prince Albert is the Queen's consort.
Yes, Simeon, I'd heard as much. I meant, who is known to Mrs. Quirk, who knows Prince Bert?
Her brother-in-law, his name is John, and he's the Prince's butler. Through the butler, you see, one might gain access to the Prince.
Aha, I begin to get your drift. A book by the Bert. With due encouragement from Spavin and Spavin, the royal kraut talks frankly and for the first time about his moustache, the drains at Windsor, how to co-found museums and set up great exhibitions, and, in a chapter entitled Victoria Cross, describes how he contravened royal etiquette in between the matrimonial sheets. Top-notch, Simeon. It'll be the hit of the 60s.
This way, gents.
Thanks.
Primus and I have obtained a royal appointment. We are to see the prince himself, secure a contract...
Left!
And thereby, thank God, secure the future of the firm.
Right!
This is very good of you, you know.
No, it ain't. You give me 300 quid for me services.
Am I?
Yes, step Peter. It's all been agreed.
Oh.
Wait here, please, gents.
I've never been introduced to royalty as such.
There's nothing to it.
Do we bow when we see him?
3 times, and kiss his fragrant mitt, and then he'll ask you how you are and what you do.
Right. Very well, thank you. I'm a publisher. Very well, thank you. I'm a publisher.
His Royal Highness will see you now.
Splendid. Where is the cove?
Down the other end of the room.
Very well, thank you. I'm a publisher.
You have 2 minutes, starting from now.
2 minutes? It'll take that long to reach him. Best foot forward, step Peter. Your Royal Highness, or may I call you YRH? My step-pater and I have a proposal to put to you.
Yes.
It's quite simple. You spill the beans about your good self and your life with Vicky, and we'll publish the said beans in a lavishly illustrated single-volume edition. No need for you to actually put quill to parchment. Just chat for an hour or two to a hand-picked, esteemed and trusted ghostwriter, viz. Simeon Wilmot Huff. Nick a few pics from the royal family's daguerreotype album and leave the rest to us. Whew. Okay, YRH?
Ich bin schön pleased to meet you. How are you? Und was do you do?
Oh, who's that? Stop! I have a gun. Help!
Why have you created an obstacle course outside the bedroom?
Oh, well, what's the time?
3 o'clock, darling.
Where have you been?
On the razzle, darling. Do you really have a gun?
No.
That's a pity. You could have shot that owl.
Those things on the landing, they're all Mother's. She's been trying her hand at pottery, dressmaking, indoor bowls, and several other enterprises.
Well...
I thought she needed a hobby, you see, now that she's not involved with the firm and has so much time on her hands.
Absolutely, darling. I'm a fervent believer in personal pursuits.
I have taken up painting, and Mrs. Quirk is sitting for me. Chin a little higher, please, Mrs. Quirk.
I don't think my chin goes any higher than this, Mrs. Spavin. So, what happened to the flower arranging?
I arranged not to continue with it.
The crochet work?
All undone.
Shame.
Somehow it seems I'm too distracted, too unhappy to concentrate my mind. Of course, the blame for my condition lies with my deluded, infatuated son. God have pity on me, for I have a wayward and foolish boy who loves not his mother.
And in whom you are not best pleased.
As you may be aware, Mrs. Quirk, I never held an official position within the firm, nor did I have any ownership thereof. But I was in the adjacent office whenever Gerald needed me, which he all too frequently did.
That's right.
I was his guide and mentor.
That's right.
I was the firm's matriarch.
You were its imposing figurehead, Mrs. Spavin. And now that you are gone, they are all at sea. How is the portrait, Mrs. Spavin?
I have done with it, Mrs. Quirk.
Oh?
Do you dare to see it? There.
Oh, Lord. Is that what I look like?
I hope, Mrs. Quirk, that it is not what anyone looks like. I here and now renounce my brush and my oils. I shall make one last endeavour, one final attempt to discover a pleasurable and diverting pastime. But I tell you, Mrs. Quirk, if that fails, I will take to my bed, and I will never, never get up.
I didn't know you were a friend of Dr. Samuel Smiles.
No, nor did I.
Darling, I make friends pretty well indiscriminately.
Dearest Cordelia was out again last night. She is out every night, it seems. She is companionable almost to a fault. And while she was out, it appears that she made a new acquaintance.
Who is Dr. Samuel Smiles?
He works for the South Eastern Railway.
Prime cut. We'll be able to travel free.
Also, he's written a best-selling book.
Trainspotter's Guide 1859?
No, Primus, it's called Self-Help. It's one of those how-to guides, you know, for those who want to be successful in life.
Never heard of it. Don't need it.
Of course you don't, darling. But if I were to take advantage of my recently formed friendship with him, I might be able to persuade him to write a follow-up.
Ah, yes. Help yourself to some more.
Which would be published by Spavin and Spavin.
And make pots of money. Capital idea.
Perhaps I should write to Mr. Smiles.
Doctor, darling.
And formally invite him to our offices here.
No, there's no need for that. I'm seeing him tomorrow, as it happens.
Oh.
Morning all.
Simeon, we've just discovered our second publishing phenomenon extraordinaire.
Well, Primus, here's your third. You've heard of Palgrave, of course.
No, never.
The grapevine has it that he's planning to bring out an anthology of verse called Palgrave's Golden Treasury.
The grotesque conceit of the man.
My notion is this. Why don't we do a spoiler on the fellow and produce a poetry anthology of our very own?
My God, yes. Pourquoi pas? I'll call it Primus's Poetical Depository.
Do you like poetry, darling?
No, never read it. But Simeon is a poetry buff. He's even scribbled a few stanzas himself.
Yes, thank you. This is called On Gazing into a Mirror. Oh, elusive visage...
Lovely, but enough. So, Simeon here can do the needful. Copy out several hundred dreary ballads and silly ditties, write a pretentious preface, and we've got a bestseller! Another bestseller! Hurrah!
I think I'd like to inject a note of realism here.
Of course you would, Step-Pater. You invariably do. But don't worry, we won't take a blind bit of notice.
My dear lady.
My dear Dr. Smiles, though I think I shall call you Samuel.
I am, as you see, deeply ensconced my crowded desk.
Or Sam, or Sanny, or Smiley.
Then shall stay so till 6 or the clock. Work, 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 work. That's my motto. Work, 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 work.
That's a very long and a very tedious motto, darling. My motto is, have fun. Shall we go?
Madam, oh, madam, believe me, I want tay. My heart says aye, my wee loins say aye, aye. But I fear it's out of the question. Look, will ye, at this monster pile of paperwork.
Yes, darling.
And besides...
Yes, darling.
I'm a married man.
That's all right, darling. I'm a married woman. But the question is, have you fallen hopelessly in love with me?
I have. Oh.
Gorgeous, darling. Now, let me put to you an exciting proposition.
Good evening, Mother. And what kind of day have you had today?
I've had a splendid day, thank you.
Oh.
In the morning, I read a book.
Ah, one of our publications, is it?
No, Gerald, it is not. This is a very useful book, and it is called How to Write a Bestseller in 3 Simple Steps.
Oh, really?
Simple step the first, think of a memorable title. Simple step the second, think of a plot which can be described in no more than 4 words. Simple step the third, pretend to be someone who is young and exciting and whose face would look agreeable on the frontispiece.
Well, Mother, it couldn't be much simpler than that. And what did you do in the afternoon?
I began work on a bestseller, of course.
Oh, I see.
Here, look.
Good Lord. Betrayed.
A memorable title.
By Jonathan Dunwoody.
He's young, he's exciting, he's extremely good-looking, he's got the plot, and he's already written the first 3 chapters.
Primus, Simeon, and I are on a train. Primus's notion. He was determined to take full advantage of my dearest wife's friendship with Dr. Smiles and the latter's association with the South Eastern Railway. Primus?
Yes, Steppater?
Where are we going as such?
I have no idea. Wherever it is, it's not costing us a penny, thanks to the good doctor. What I thought we'd do, Steppater, is spread our papers all over the table, talk about our work in very loud voices, and generally annoy the other passengers as much as we can. Such fun! Ah, here comes Simeon.
Excuse me. Whoops! Sorry. 3 coffees. Well, 2 1/4.
Simeon, when we get to a station, I want you to request that an electric telegraph be sent to the first person you can think of. Message: Hi, Primus here. I'm on a train at the moment. Now, Steppater, to work.
Yes.
I gather from the mater that Dr. Samuel Smiles has agreed to pen an enormously popular sequel to his enormously popular treatise, Self-Help. Projected sales, vast. Next, Primus's poetical depository. Would you care to comment, Simeon?
Yes. Work in progress. Projected sales. Vast.
Splendid. Next, Albert's memorials. Positive news on this front, too. The Prince, via Mrs. Quirk's brother-in-law, has indicated his general assent to the project.
Really? Splendid.
Simeon, you are to present yourself at Windsor Castle at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning for a 2-minute interview, following which you will concoct a no-holds-barred, trousers-down, kiss-Vic-and-tell expose of the royal family and all its very large houses. Projected sales of the said autobiography, vast. Happy, everyone? Yes, Steppater?
There is just one other thing.
Yes, Steppater.
Betrayed by Jonathan Dunwoody.
Never heard of it.
I came across the manuscript a little while ago. First 3 chapters and a synopsis, along with a faithful engraving of the author. I thought the work had a lot of promise, and I handed it to you, Primus, for your consideration.
And you handed it straight away to me, Primus.
Splendid. Reader's report, please, Simeon.
Betrayed is the story of an attractive and highly virtuous widow whose son is nominally in charge of a publishing firm. The son is lured into an unsuitable marriage with an actress whose own son, a madman, takes over the firm and leads it towards ruin.
Oh, dear.
The virtuous widow's earnest prayers are finally answered when the madman is strangled by means of his necktie catching in a printing press.
Interesting plot.
In the humble reader's opinion, the book has every prospect of success, particularly among women with thoroughly empty lives. I recommend we give Mr. Dunwoody £200 by way of a commission to complete the novel in 3 volumes by the end of the year.
Splendid. Top rank.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, Steppater?
I think it would only be right and proper to declare at this stage that Mr. Dunwoody is the nom de plume of someone who is known to me.
Nothing to be ashamed of, Steppater. I number several writer chappies among my acquaintances. Who is the Cove?
The Cove is my mother.
Your mother?
Yes. She's been in rather low spirits recently. Writing has become something of a diversion for her.
Oh, really?
I can tell you the acceptance of the book for publication will do her morale no end of good.
Perhaps, Steppater, but I ought to point out to you that we're not in this business to provide therapy to the afflicted. Simeon, I want a second opinion.
Certainly, Primus. Betrayed by Jonathan Dunwoody. No, thank you.
Lost, my moral fibre shot to wee pieces.
Good
morning, Smiley.
Oh, Cordelia, good morning to ye, and come here immediately.
Gorgeous, darling.
I want ye. I want ye.
I know, darling. But as ye are well aware, one never gets something for nothing in life. How is work going on the book, darling?
I've written nary a word.
Darling!
How can I write if all that I can think of is ye? When I dip my pen in the ink, I see your twa lips. When I gaze upon the paper, I see your twa breasties. Oh, Cordelia, oh.
Gorgeous, darling. But it seems we have something of a problem here.
All that I have stood for, about to be overthrown. My sensible way of life, my family, my reputation.
Not only that, darling, but you're reneging on a promise to write a follow-up to Self-Help. I suggest, darling, that you take a very cold tub, open a copy of that best-selling book of yours, and sort yourself out.
Spavin and Spavin of Paternoster Row, the firm with a growing reputation for being at the cutting edge of British publishing, is proud to announce 3 new titles.
Darling!
Oh, hello, Mater. Any news from South East Trains?
Yes. Smiley's gone off the rails.
What? He can't do that.
He's a loving wreck, darling. The poor man's infatuated with me.
Of course he is, Mater. But what about Self-Help too?
No, darling, not if Smiley can help it. He's renounced being sensible, and he's giving himself up to wantonness and unchastity.
Damn! That's one publishing sensation down the privy. Never mind. We've still got the big one from the Burt, do we not?
Yes, Primus, we most certainly do.
My God, Simeon.
500 pages of it.
You've done all this since yesterday?
No, Primus, this is the Prince's work, not mine.
He's written it himself?
Ja, Herr Primus. Das Book is alles gedone and gedusted, and without anyone zu helpen him. Read.
500 pages? Don't be absurd.
Well, read the first sentence, then. That will suffice.
Ich was in 1819 geboren, in der Principality of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, und ich was ein little Mensch, schön, happy und handsome.
Good heavens, darling.
The Prince informed me that in his opinion the manuscript is schön wunderbar, and that it is absolutely verboten to alter a single damned word.
The man's mad.
It's all that in reading, darling.
We can't possibly publish the wretched thing, so what are we going to do?
Well, Simeon, the way I see it, we should all partake of a lovely, soothing cup of tea. Mrs. Quirk! Oh, of course, there is one last hope. We still have Primus's poetical depository. Is it finished?
More or less.
Go fetch.
Well, actually, I have it here. More or less.
Rather more less, I think, than more. How many poems, all told?
6.
6?
Caesar!
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Quirk. 6 poems, Simeon, representing over 1,000 years of rhyming and rhythming. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Our 3 publishing phenomena all fizzled out. Oh, why am I surrounded by incompetence? Excluding yourself, Mater, and of course you, Mrs. Quirk.
I had a good read the other week.
I'm sure you did, Mrs. Quirk.
It was the first few chapters of a book called Betrayed by Jonathan Dunwoody, who is better known as Mrs. Spavin.
Oh, yes.
She showed it me. Very, very powerful story, that was. A real page-turner.
Oh, yes.
What happens next? I asked myself when I reached the last page of the manuscript. I must find out what happens next.
Well, Mrs. Quirk, perhaps you will get the chance. Step, Peter. It seems to me, ladies and Simeon, that we have been searching for the crock of gold when all the time it was with us here.
Ah, tea.
Sorry, not now, Step Peter.
Oh.
Step Peter?
Yes, Primus.
I have discovered a literary genius. Let us hurry home and salute her.
Essentially, Mother, there's been something of a shift of position with regard to your book.
Oh, has there?
Essentially, grand stepmother. Spavin and Spavin would like to make you an offer for it.
Indeed.
There, Mother. What do you think of that?
The truth is, I hadn't actually read your work. I was relying on the opinion of my reader, Simeon W. Huff. But let's face it, grand stepmother, there is no substitute for getting the old optics down and reading the stuff oneself. And when I did, what did I find?
You are too late.
A very, very powerful story. A real page-turner. Too late?
I reject your offer.
Mother, no.
I reject it.
Mrs. Spivin.
You had your chance and you refused it. This very morning I arranged terms for my book with the eminent publishers Bradbury and Evans.
What?
And very satisfactory terms they are, too.
Mother! Oh, Mother!
Mrs. Spivin, shall I tell you what I really think of your story? It's stale buns. It's dung and dross. Publish that dribble? No, thank you. There, feel better now.
Primus, what have you done?
Me? My first inclination was to publish the wretched book. It's all your fault for telling me who wrote it.
Primus.
Yes, steppater?
We are in crisis.
Again, steppater?
We must hold a meeting. First thing tomorrow.
That was episode 1 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Gerald by David Horowitch, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Simeon by Charles Simpson, and Mrs. Quirk by Joan Sims. Prince Albert and Smiles, Ewan Meredith, and John, Stephen Critchlow. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year?
1861.
The place?
London. My name is Gerald Spavin, of Spavin and Spavin, the publishers.
And I am Mrs. Edith Spavin, Gerald's mother.
When I married...
A foolish choice.
My stepson...
An idiot boy.
Became my junior partner.
And I moved out and took up writing.
The firm, I fear, has since declined.
But I, meanwhile, have become an author of great promise.
So now...
Read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, David Horowitch as Gerald, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Charles Simpson as Simeon, and Joan Sims as Mrs. Quirk. Episode 2, Great Expectations.
My stepson Primus and I are in a carriage bound for Gad's Hill, which is close to Rochester. We are on a very important mission to see a very important author. Talking of authors, Primus, I see that Mother's book has got good notices.
Oh, yes. Did she write them herself?
It is regarded by many, I believe, as unput-downable.
It is regarded by me, steppater, as unpick-upable.
Her next one is already half finished, you know.
Her next one? Hell's teeth! Has your mater no shame, steppater?
The book will not, she advises me, be offered to Spavin and Spavin. There's no chance of that, she says, not while you are at the firm.
So be it. Your mater's work interests me not a jot, steppater. We won't miss her. We have bigger fish to fry.
Yes. Primus, may I ask you if Mr. Charles Dickens is expecting us?
You may. He isn't. I have made several attempts to arrange an appointment with him, but it's clear that the Dickens is being somewhat coy.
And if we do find him at home, Primus, how on earth do you propose to persuade him that a move to Spavin and Spavin would be to his advantage?
Very simple. I'll offer him more of the grubby gelt than he's currently earning.
But we don't have more of the grubby gelt. We don't have any gelt.
Exactly, steppater. But the Dickens, with his vast popularity, fame, and prestige, is just the fellow to turn our fortunes round, n'est-ce pas?
One more question, Primus. Why have you brought a megaphone with you?
The reason I have brought a megaphone, steppater,
is so that I may address persuasive words to the mighty man from outside his security fence, which, I am informed, has been erected to keep out hawkers, peddlers, fanatics, and people such as our good selves. Ah, there. Look. Gad's Hill Place. Come on out, Mr. Dickens. We know you're in there. Mr. Dickens, it's Primus megaphoning.
Primus of Spavin and Spavin, Paternoster Row. Loved your last one, Mr. Dickens.
What was his last one?
Sorry?
Sorry? What kind of title is that?
Anyway, to cut a long story short, whatever Chapman and Hall are offering for your next opus, we'll double it.
What?
Any thoughts, Mr. Dickens?
Yes, Mr. Primus. It seems to me, not to put too fine a point on it, that you must be a liar and a charlatan. Please leave me to get on with another installment of my new work, Great Expectations, which threatens to be a tragicomic masterpiece and a huge, universally acclaimed success. Adieu.
I shall not give up.
Then you are, not to put too fine a point on it, not only a liar and a charlatan, but a fool as well. Talk to my man of business.
Your man of business?
Forster. Forster. He'll sort you out.
I'm ill. Normally, when I'm feeling queasy, several glasses of brandy put me back on course. In fact, there are few occasions in life I find when several glasses of brandy are inappropriate. But this particular complaint, I must tell you, seems immune to medication. I'm not right. The customary ebb and flow of the internal mysteries has gone strangely quiet.
Hello, darlings.
Cordelia, darling.
Ah, Mater, tell me, do you happen to know a fellow named Foster?
Forster?
That's the chappie.
Yes, darling. He and I were introduced to each other by Mr. Wilkie Collins, and we became very firm friends.
Yes, I thought you might have. Darling, you look tired.
Darling, I am tired, and I'm thoroughly out of sorts.
Oh, dear.
Well, you spread yourself onto the sofa, Mater, and I'll ring for a lovely, soothing cup of tea.
Gorgeous, darling.
You rang?
Oh, that was quick, Mrs. Quirk.
Oh, I was eavesdropping.
You'll know, therefore, that a lovely, soothing cup of tea is required immediatement. No, make that lovely, soothing cups of tea all round. Immediatement?
If you want my opinion...
My dear Mrs. Quirk, I want it almost as much as I want a lovely, soothing cup of tea.
Mrs. Spavin is expecting.
Oh, heavens.
Good Lord.
I must lie down.
You are lying down, Mater.
Oh, Cordelia, am I indeed to begin decorating the nursery?
Believe me, she has all the signs and portents.
I don't see that, Mrs. Quirk. I mean, I like to lie down from time to time and have a lovely, soothing cup of tea, but on none of these occasions am I intending a nativity. And talking of lovely, soothing cups of tea...
If you are expecting and so forth, my dear...
Yes, darling?
Well, it would as such be very wonderful and marvellous, would it not?
Not if, as is likely, the thing that's expected turns out to be a selfish little brat. I suppose you'll want to call it Secundus, eh, Mater?
Gorgeous, darling.
What about Gerald?
Yes? What about you, darling?
No matter.
Good gracious, Mrs. Spavin. What a fast writer you are.
20 pages this morning, Mrs. Quirk. And it would have been more, I'm sure, if I hadn't been thinking about that woman and her baby. A baby at her age, and of uncertain parentage. Shame upon her.
I don't think your son is in much doubt about the parentage, Mrs. Spavin.
Perhaps not, but my son is a fool. Now, Mrs. Quirk, if you'll excuse me.
Oh, you press ahead, Mrs. Spavin. His beard bristled and quivered as he held her... Go on, Mrs. Spavin. Tight.
Fiction, I have always maintained, is an abomination.
Utterly, Mrs. Spavin.
But my works are scenes from real life. My works are moral tales, 19th century parables, in which it is shown that virtue is rewarded and sinfulness is punished.
That's right. And whenever you get to the sinfulness, Mrs. Spavin, oh, you do describe it well. On you go.
Your mother, I hear, has been declared pregnant.
She has, Simeon, and I tell you I'm feeling un peu dischuffed already. The little bastard will be a rival to the mater's affections.
Primus?
Step, Peter. You look agitated. Is the mater all right? Have the waters parted?
She is as well as can be hoped, and is in capable hands. For though the happy event is more than half a year away, she has already taken occupation of a private room in a nursing home on the city road, where she is being visited by a large number of her friends.
But that is not why I am here. Primus, Mrs. Quirk has informed me that you've been corresponding with Mr. John Forster and intend to talk with him over lunch concerning the possibility of bringing Mr. Dickens to Spavin and Spavin.
Correct. Exciting, eh?
Well, don't you think that I, as managing director of Spavin and Spavin, should be involved in these negotiations?
Oh, absolutely. Take a seat. Here, I believe, comes Mr. Forster in person.
Forster?
So, we can begin our discussions forthwith.
Gentlemen,
Mr. Forster.
My name is Primus.
Indeed. And pray allow me to point out to you at the very outset, Mr. Primus, that I am only here as a favour to your dear and delightful mother, with whom I am well acquainted.
Oh.
My name, sir, as a trusty right-hand man and shrewd adviser to Mr. Dickens, I correct his punctuation, offer him plot lines. It was I and no other who killed little Nell.
Yes, boo.
I puff prodigiously on his behalf, writing shamelessly ecstatic reviews of his various works, and, of course, I negotiate with publishers.
Aha! Yes. Have another chop.
Mr. Primus, the plain, blunt, vulgar, unvarnished truth is this. It would need a most bizarre and unforeseen set of events, Mr. Primus, to persuade me that Mr. Dickens should change his allegiance.
We got no joy from Mr. John Foster, but while I was ushering him out of the chop house and informing him as I did so of the possibility that I am to have a sibling, a notion occurred to me as to how I might bring the Foster to heel, and I hurried straight round to the nursing home.
Hello, darling.
Hello, mater. You're staying in bed for a bit, I gather?
The entire period of gestation, darling, and several months beyond. I intend to do absolutely nothing except receive maximum fuss and attention.
Quite right. Mater?
Yes, darling?
Does Step-Pater have any notion as to who's responsible for the enigmatic embryo?
Of course he does, darling. He's convinced that he is.
And who do you think it is?
Good heavens, darling. I needn't notice of a question like that.
Oh, of course. Tell me, might Foster be a credible candidate?
Oh, absolutely. He and I have been very good friends. Would you like Forster to be the father, darling?
Well, I wouldn't mind him thinking he is.
Very well, darling.
Bravo! I shall accost the man this very night. And now, it is this very night, and I am crouched behind a lamppost a few yards from the entrance to the Garrick Club.
Foster! Foster! Forster! F-O-R-S-T-E-R. Oh, it's you.
Correct. Primus. P-R-I-M-U-S.
Mr. Primus, you and I have talked enough today.
Sir, you are a cad.
Cab?
Cad! C-A-D. A cad and a bounder, and you deserve to be horsewhipped.
Cab!
Yes, sir.
Montague Square, cabby.
Cabby?
Yes, sir.
I should like to borrow your horsewhip.
Bloody hell, bloody flagellators. Here.
Thank you.
Come on, gee up. Off we go.
Now, Foster. Take your punishment. What?
Oh, no, it's no good, Foster. I'll have to whip you later if you don't mind. Can't get a fair crack at the thing in here.
Sir, your conduct is monstrous, intolerable.
Sir, you are a lewd and goatish fornicator.
Cabby, drive to the nearest police station, and for heaven's sake...
Now look, Foster!
Faster! Forster!
How can I go faster? Your friend's got my whip.
These are my conditions.
What do you mean, conditions?
Unless, within the next 2 weeks, you have persuaded your client, Mr. Charles Dickens, to sever all links with Chapman and Hall, and to sign up with Spavin and Spavin, I intend to reveal your horrible secret to a startled and yet prurient world.
Horrible secret? What horrible secret?
My mater informs me that you have had carnalities with her.
What?
You have impregnated her.
Oh, my God.
My mater, in short, is the mater of your brat, and you must face the consequences.
Mr. Forster.
Madam, I am here on a very grave and serious matter.
Gorgeous darling. Sit here on the bed. Hold my hand. and tell me all about it.
It concerns the forthcoming infant's paternity, madam. Am I, or have I ever been, the father of the fetus?
You are. You are. Isn't that gorgeous, darling? You won't tell my husband, will you? Promise me. He'd be so upset.
But can you be certain about this?
Oh, absolutely. I have the occasion recorded in my diary. I have spared no details.
Oh.
Darling, if you didn't think you were cut out to be a father, then why on earth didn't you say so at the time?
But Primus, a few days ago, Forster flatly refused us.
He did, but then I discovered a new and most cogent argument. And now I can assure you Forster is determined that his client should change publishers. There'll be no obstacle. Where the Forster leads, the Dickens follows. The deal's as good as done.
Charles Dickens with Spavin and Spavin. Oh, Primus.
It marks something of a breakthrough, n'est-ce pas? Oh, by the way, I'm intending to embark upon a new profession.
Indeed?
You see, Steppeter, it occurred to me that though the Forster is in truth an overblown and obnoxious toad, he has clearly hit upon an interesting and innovatory career path. So I stand before you, Primus, literary agent.
Literary? Well, congratulations.
Thank you, Steppeter.
We'll miss you, Primus, terribly.
Yeah.
Of course we will. When are you off? You know, I think you're very wise to be moving on to fresh endeavours.
Steppeter, you must understand, je pense. I am indeed acquiring a new job, but I have no intention of giving up the old one.
You haven't?
I shall be an agent and a publisher simultaneously. Well, almost simultaneously. Let me show you. Here we are.
Morning, Mr. Spavin. Morning, Primus.
Behold Simeon, sitting in the broom cupboard.
Yes.
Pourquoi, you ask? This way. The reason Simeon is in the broom cupboard is because what was once his room is now mine.
But you've already got a room. Mother's room, as was.
Yes, Steppeter. That's the room I use when I'm wearing my publisher's chapeau. This is the room, quite nice view, that I intend to use when I am behatted in the mode of an agent.
I see. But, Primus, if you're simultaneously a publisher and a literary agent, won't there be the possibility of a conflict of interest?
What? No, absolutely quite the opposite. When writers approach Primus the agent, seeking the benefits of his business acumen and his thorough grasp of the market, he'll always send their work to you, Steppeter, as the first option.
You'll be taking a commission for your services, no doubt?
Bien sûr, mon cher Steppeter. One has to earn a living.
Mr. Primus.
Morning.
Mr. Primus, every one of us apparently has a novel in him. Mr. Primus.
Morning.
It's about love, it's about death, and it's set in Antarctica.
Mr. Primus.
Morning.
They told me right about what you know, so I wrote about upholstery and antimacassars.
Mr. Primus, what are these people doing?
These people, Mrs. Quirk, are of the breed known as writer, and they are waiting to see me in my capacity as literary agent.
Well, they can't all have a lovely, refreshing cup of tea, I'm afraid.
Oh, absolutely not, Mrs. Quirk. Let them thirst. Let them grow hot and uncomfortable and anxious and terribly, terribly grateful when they're eventually allowed into my sanctum, which won't be for 2 more hours at least, I'm afraid. 2 more hours at least, everyone. Sorry.
I've got another question.
Yes, Mrs. Quirk?
Now that Mr. Simeon's in the broom cupboard, where am I going to put me brooms?
Evening, Mother.
Chapter 22.
Sorry I'm late, Mother. I've just come from the nursing home.
The night was dark and stormy.
Cordelia's being very brave.
Who is?
Cordelia. My wife.
Oh, her.
And she sent her love.
Her love? I'd rather she didn't do that.
Will you be joining Primus and me for dinner, Mother?
No, I shall not. I am working.
Mother, you are always working.
That, Gerald, is because I am making up for lost time. I must have the second book ready with as much speed as is consistent with the maintenance of my highest standards of prose, in order that the second book may capitalize on the success of the first.
But your first has only just been published.
True, Gerald. in 3 volumes at 30 shillings and 6pence. And 1,000 copies have been ordered by the circulating libraries, and there are to be public readings, an adaptation for the stage, extracts in a leading weekly, along with a 6-page feature about me and my house, including illustrations of the drawing room. So, you see, I am already well launched upon a literary career, and there can be no stopping now.
Primus, it has come to my ears that...
Wait a second. Let me stop you right there, Steppater. Are you sure you're in the right office?
What?
Is it as an agent or a publisher that I am being addressed?
Both.
Ah, right. Well, perhaps 10 minutes here and then 10 minutes in my other place?
Primus, Mrs. Quirk has informed me...
You know, I sometimes wish that Mrs. Quirk would restrict herself to the precise remit of her job specification.
She has informed me that you, as literary agent, have effectively persuaded yourself as junior partner at Spavin and Spavin to accept 46 books for publication, namely as follows: Theophilus Smart's debut triple-decker...
Yes, it's all true.
But I had told you, Primus, that the firm's efforts were at present entirely bound up with Mr. Dickens. And I had specifically rejected each and every one of the publishing proposals which you have subsequently accepted.
Correct, Steppater. But you see, as a young, bright, dynamic agent, I decided that I might get a more favourable response from my clients if I went to the junior partner, viz. me, rather than to your good self.
Primus, we are in no position to throw money at these incompetent people. This is disastrous. This is the end. We're going to be ruined.
Mr. Spavin, sir. Primus.
Ah, Simeon, what brings you out of your closet?
2 things. I cannot go on as I am. Either I am permitted to have my room back, or I resign from the firm forthwith.
Yes. Second thing?
Mr. Forster is waiting outside.
Splendid. Bring him in.
Am I to have my room back?
No.
Then I resign forthwith, and I'm not bringing Mr. Forster in.
What about working at home and communicating with us telegraphically? Think how much you'd save on travel.
Yes, Primus, but I'd miss the thrill of coming face to face with literary celebs. And I'd miss the camaraderie, the sense of teamwork, the gossip, the informal little gatherings around Mrs. Quirk's tea trolley, the office romances...
What office romances?
Gentlemen.
Ah, Foster.
Forster.
I have, under great constraint and with monumental misgivings...
Surely not. Later sends her love, by the way.
Thank you. I have, as I was saying, discussed with my client, Mr. Dickens, the matter which is of some interest to you.
Oh, splendid. Well done.
And I have endeavoured to present your firm to Mr. Dickens in a kindly light. That is to say, a light that leaves a great deal unlit. Mr. Dickens has a number of serious reservations.
Surely not.
But he declares that he is willing to talk in a general fashion about future potentialities which may be of mutual benefit, and he will do so at his Kentish home this coming Tuesday at 11 o'clock.
Primus and I are in a carriage bound for Gad's Hill again. You know, Primus, this is akin to a dream come true. Charles Dickens joining up with Spavin and Spavin. I can hardly contain my excitement.
Me neither, Steppater. Oh, by the by, I'm intending to change rooms when we get back to the office.
What? Again?
Yes. I'm thinking of doing my literary agency work in the nice room and the publishing work in the quite nice room, in order to reflect the additional importance I'm attaching to my new role. Which reminds me, the Dickens wrote me a letter. Care to look at it?
No, I get sick if I read on the road.
Well, he's invited me to his house at Gad's Hill.
Primus, we have already been invited to his house at Gad's Hill. We're en route to his house at Gad's Hill.
Yes, but in his letter he makes it clear that he wishes to talk to me about my work as an agent. Interesting, eh? Perhaps I should pop in first and see him alone.
Mr. Primus.
Mr. Dickens.
I have 3 topics about which I purpose to speak. First, myself and my own.
Pray dilate.
It will not have escaped your notice, I am sure, that Gad's Hill Place is a pretty big place.
Huge. Costs a bomb in upkeep, I'll wager.
A £9,000 per annum bomb, to be precise.
Phew.
Combine that with the unpleasant fact that Mrs. Dickens,
That dark shadow upon my life was cursed with a phenomenal fecundity, and bore me, along with much malice, 9 greedy children.
Oh.
Combine that with the demands of a host of other relations...
And your mistress?
And you will readily appreciate that there is a heavy drain upon the Dickens exchequer, and that the need for me to have a first-rate literary agent is absolutely paramount.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to topic 2. Forster, a friend of long standing. Indeed. Ha ha! Ha ha! He has stood so long he has grown tired, jaded. The mighty mogul is married and moneyed. He has lost the spark. He is not at all the shrewd man of business he was. Not for my business, at least. By contrast...
Topic 3?
You, sir.
An excellent topic.
Oh, by the way, your voice is familiar to me.
Yes, you and I were engaged in megaphone diplomacy a few weeks back. I was a publisher then.
Oh, yes. And a liar and a charlatan.
Well, but now I am beginning to encroach upon Mr. Foster's territory.
My point entirely. If you were to represent me, Primus, what would you advise me to do at this critical stage in my career? Would you, as Forster is doing, urge me to switch horses yet again and associate myself with Spavin and Spavin?
And a large number of hopeless imbeciles.
Or would you, perhaps, urge me to remain with Chapman and Hall, whom I still regard as the very best of publishers?
The very, very best indeed.
And the truest of true friends.
Than whom no friend could be truer.
And would you perhaps say to me, these true friends at Chapman and Hall, these are people one can do business with?
Absolutely.
Good, good. You know, I happen to agree with you. And I happen to think, Primus, that you and I can do business too. Dear fellow, will you agree henceforth to be my agent?
Dear Dickens, I will. I put my hand in yours.
Lord love you, sir.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! God bless us, each one of us. And now, my dearest Primus, your first piece of business is to leave this room, discover Mr. Gerald Spavin waiting outside, and break to him some disappointing news.
You're not going to have a baby?
No, darling. So I thought I'd discharge myself from the nursing home.
But why aren't you going to have a baby?
Because it transpires, darling, that there is no baby to have. Which is a shame, really, because I'd grown rather attached to the tiny mite, and I was sure it was going to grow up to be an actor of some distinction.
Madam, what are you saying?
Well, apparently my symptoms have been caused by what they call a menopause. You've probably experienced several of them at your age, darling. The time of one's life, I think the nurse said it was. So that bodes rather well. Darling, I hope you didn't knit too many woolly outfits for the little one.
Morning, Stepladder.
I think it is the afternoon.
Couldn't tell you. Not a clock watcher myself. How are you?
Desperately unhappy.
Is that on account of not after all being the Dickens publisher, or not after all being about to be a pleasure?
Both.
Well, saves time, I suppose, having 2 disappointments at once. You'll find me in my nice room, if you want me.
Mr. Primus?
Yes, Mrs. Quirk?
Mr. Forster is waiting outside.
Yes?
He says he's just come from the nursing home, where he has discovered something of interest about your mother.
Oh, yes.
And he says you're a cad and a bounder. Also, he is carrying a whip.
Correction, Stepladder. You won't find me in my nice room. Hello, Simeon.
Primus!
In person.
You know, this really is a bit thick. How many rooms do you want, for heaven's sake?
Emergency measure, Simeon. He'll never think of looking here. Shift along 2 inches, will you? Nice broom cupboard. Not much of a view, but warm, cosy. What I could do with now, I think, is a lovely, soothing cup of tea.
That was episode 2 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Gerald by David Horowitch, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Simeon by Charles Simpson, and Mrs. Quirk by Joan Sims. Dickens, Ewan Meredith, Forster, Gerard McDermott, and the cab driver, Stephen Critchlow. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year?
1862.
The place?
London. My name is Gerald Spavin, of Spavin and Spavin, the publishers.
And I am Mrs. Edith Spavin, Gerald's mother. Since I left the firm, I have become a writer. My star is in the ascendancy.
But the fortunes of the firm, I fear, are declining fast.
So now?
Oh, dear. Read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, David Horowitz as Gerald, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Charles Simpson as Simeon, and Joan Sims as Mrs. Quirk. Episode 3, Terminal Journals.
Ah, Primus.
Nice room, but not as nice as mine. You wanted a chat, Steppeter?
Well, do sit down. Not so much a chat, I think, as an opportunity for me to tell you face to face, and without beating around the bush and so forth, you're fired, for want of a better word.
Fired, Steppeter? Pourquoi?
Primus, are you familiar with our sales figures for the last 3 years? Are you aware at all of our profit margins?
Profit margins, Steppeter?
The position is this, Primus. The firm is on the verge of ruin, and the cause of its ruin is you.
Me, Steppeter? Are you quite certain?
Yes, quite. Since the day, that you joined the firm, you have shown yourself to be grossly negligent, grossly incompetent, and guilty of gross malpractice.
I deny the charges. Produce the evidence.
Certainly. In this very fat file here. 131 examples of your deviant behaviour. So, what do you say to that?
To that, I say this. Keep your fat file. Je ne regrette rien. You tell me I'm fired, and I tell you, Steppeter, I refuse to be fired.
Mother?
Not now, Gerald. I'm busy.
You don't look very busy.
I'm thinking about my third bestseller in 3 years.
Ah, well, it is about your third bestseller in 3 years that I wish to talk. Oh, Mother, things are very bad with the firm, so bad indeed that I fear it will soon go under. But if you were to let your third bestseller be published by Spavin and Spavin, the firm, I'm certain, would quickly find its feet again. Success would breed success. What do you say, Mother?
No.
Never?
Never. Not at least until you have dispensed with the services of the idiot boy.
But I have tried to dispense with them, Mother, and he has refused to let me. He says he has a job to do, and he won't abandon it now. He'll see it through to the bitter end.
Well, Gerald, if you won't fire the boy, then you can't have my book. And then I think it will be a bitter end indeed. It will be the wormwood and the gall.
Oh, Mother.
The fault is yours, Gerald, not mine. You were the one who was infatuated with the mother of the boy.
Yes. Thank you, Mother.
It is night time, and my wife and I, Cordelia, darling...
Yes, darling?
She and I are in bed together. Cordelia, I want to ask a very, very big favour of you.
Oh, I think I'm asleep, darling.
It concerns Primus.
Primus? Oh, the dear, dear boy.
He is a dear, dear boy. However...
So bright, so talented. With Primus, all things are possible.
With Primus, the ruin of Spavin and Spavin is almost inevitable.
Darling, that's a most ungenerous remark.
Darling, generosity, I'm afraid, can no longer be afforded.
But after all that the poor boy has done for you...
Well, Cordelia, I rather wish that he hadn't done all that he has done. I wish that he had never joined the firm. I wish that he'd never become a junior partner. Why, oh, why did I permit it?
As a special favour to me, darling, because you love me.
Yes, and now, Cordelia, I would beg you, as a special favour to me,
me to release me from my obligation. Let Primus, with your encouragement, be prized from his post. Let him be moved sideways, upstairs. I'll make him a consultant, a special adviser, anything, so long as he is no longer involved in the day-to-day running of the firm. Cordelia?
I think you are being very hard upon the boy.
Plead with him, or else we are ruined.
Well, then, I will. I will use all the powers of persuasion that a mother and an actress has at her disposal.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Darling.
Yes, Mater?
At Gerald's request, I'm asking you not to go to work.
Oh, a day off. That's very decent of him.
Actually, darling, he wants you to take every day off. He wants you to leave the firm, and he asked me to plead with you on his behalf.
Well, Mother, you're making a very fine go of it. But I tell you, I am quite unmoved. I'm not a quitter. I fight on.
Is that your final word?
Absolutely.
Gorgeous, darling. I thought it might be.
Do take a seat.
Oh, thank you, Primus.
Now, the purpose of this meeting, Simeon, is to do some serious brainstorming.
Oh, yes?
Yes. Hoist a few fresh flags up the publishing flagpole.
Right.
Drop the vomit on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up.
Ah.
Shoot the breeze and reap the whirlwind. So, Simeon, in your own time?
Yes. Let me see. Tricky. Yes. Mrs. Quirk.
Please up.
Mrs. Q, this is a very welcome break from our endeavours.
Yes, indeed.
Would you care to join us, Mrs. Quirk?
Thank you, Mr. Primus.
We've been thrashing around for some new ideas.
Well, you could raise my wages.
That's a very radical new idea, Mrs. Quirk, and I reject it out of hand.
Oh.
Mrs. Quirk, what is your bedtime reading at the moment?
It's called Diary of a Man Who Knows He's Going to Die Very, Very Shortly and Who Cries and Rages Against the Unfairness of It All.
Of course. Well, that's it. That's what we should be doing, Primus.
Oh.
Simeon, I have no intention of slipping the coil just yet, and I tell you, if indeed I had but a short while left to me, I certainly wouldn't spend it with a quill in my hand.
But other folk think otherwise. They take a grim delight in describing the symptoms and process of their physical decline. Oh, yes. Terminal journals are becoming quite the thing. Myself, of course, I consider them to be a vile pandering to prurience and voyeurism.
Yes. What's your view, Mrs. Q?
I agree.
Right. Let's do 'em. Mater and I, we are on a train. We are off to see a man about his terminal journal.
This Darwin chap here, darling, is he well known?
Quite well known, Mater. He keeps apes, I believe. Let me glance again at Simeon's notes. Charles Darwin, author of The Origin of Species.
Never heard of it.
And proponent of the theory of the survival of the fittest. But he himself, it seems, ain't fit at all. When it comes to surviving, he won't. Come on, open up.
It is my maid's day off.
That's all right. It wasn't the maid we came to see. Sir, my name is Primus, and I'm a renowned publisher. Also, I've brought my mater with me.
Hello, darling.
So may we come in?
No. Please understand, sir, that I am of an excessively nervous disposition, and that the excitement engendered by being with strangers causes me to suffer violent shivering, vomiting, and fainting fits.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Clearly, Darwin, you're not a well man. Oh, by the by, do you keep a journal? And if you do, where do you keep it exactly? And if you don't, would you like to start one up for the few remaining weeks?
What?
My son is keen to publish it in fortnightly parts, Mr. Darwin, darling.
And it'll be called Mr. Darwin's Death Diary.
And everyone will read it and they'll weep absolute buckets.
Oh.
Happy with that arrangement?
Simeon, where is Primus?
He is out of town at present, Mr. Spavin. He is on an assignment in the company of your dear lady wife.
An assignment? Oh dear.
It's all to do with terminal journals. A bold and exciting initiative.
And one which I'm sure that I don't want to hear about. Simeon, while my stepson is absent, I would like to take this opportunity of making a very urgent, nay, desperate request. As you know, Spavin and Spavin is close to financial ruin.
Exciting times.
The cause of the firm's distress is Primus.
He, I think, has been at the forefront of our riskier, more outre ventures.
He has, and for the good of the firm, therefore, I have asked him to leave us and find some other firm and be their ruin. I have pleaded with him. I have pleaded with his mother to plead with him. And now, Simeon, I plead with you. Find some way to remove him, dupe him into making an expedition to the Amazon, discover a war zone and send him there, lock him in an asylum for mine and the nation's safety. Get rid of him.
But Mr. Spavin, he's so very happy here.
I'll make it worth your while.
And he's such a dear, dear friend of mine.
Junior partner in Primus's place? What do you say?
I'll mull it over.
I just can't understand it, Mater. I approach these terminally ill people with a first-rate publishing wheeze, present it to them with all due tact and sensitivity.
Absolutely, darling.
And the stick-in-the-muds just don't want to know. Well, I hope they all die. Soon. Horribly. Nice view. Nice river.
Gorgeous, darling.
I often come here after a day at the office and just stand and stare and relieve myself.
Do you, darling?
Of all the stresses and strains of working pell-mell at the cutting edge. My God, Mater, just look at the size of that rat.
My God, yes, darling.
It's obviously one of those urban mutant super rodents that have developed a resistance to poison and lurk down privies.
They must lurk down very big privies, darling.
Lost! Lost! Lost!
You're a Blackfriar, sir. And these fluvial deposits here, sir, belong to the River Thames.
Sir, it is not I that's lost, but my beautiful, poetical wombat, who answers to the name of Virgil.
Ah, is it by any chance a brown and portly creature?
Not dissimilar to a super rat?
It is, and it has the sweetest pinhole eyes and an exquisite, inquisitive nose.
Over there, sir, sorting through the rubbish.
Oh, my Virgil! Largissimo poeta! Madam, sir, how can I ever thank you? Here, Virgil, come to Dante. Good boy, good boy. Oh, Virgil, you naughty, naughty, naughty marsupial. Madam, sir, accompany me to my humble hut, if you will, and help me celebrate, for the wombat was lost, and now is found.
Yes, I am Dante Gabriel Rossetti, he who loves the good but does not practice it. Poet, painter, philanderer, founder member of the PRB.
Never heard of it.
The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood.
Never heard of it.
Virgil the Wombat, you've already met.
Gorgeous, darling.
And this is Lizzie, my wife, formerly Lizzie Siddall. She is also trying to be a poet and a painter.
Good afternoon.
Lizzie is suffering from curvature of the spine, neuralgia, phthisis.
Phthisis?
A poor education and lack of breeding, leading to feelings of inadequacy, illegible handwriting, bouts of hysteria, frigidity. Anything else, my dearest?
Acute melancholia?
I'm not surprised, darling.
In addition, she tends to be morbidly, but quite justifiably jealous of the absolute stunners that I use as my models and invariably fall hopelessly in love with. For example, Annie, Fanny... Janie, thank you. Talking of stunners...
Yes, darling.
You are as stunning a stunner...
You bastard.
...as I have ever glimpsed.
Gorgeous, darling.
You bitch.
Why don't you and I pop upstairs, eh? And I'll show you my copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes, Mr. Simeon?
I need your advice, Mrs. Quirk.
Yes, Mr. Simeon.
I have a friend.
Yes, Mr. Simeon?
And this friend of mine, he in turn has a friend. And both of these friends work for a publishing house.
Oh, yes, Mr. Simeon.
And the stepfather of the friend
Yes, Mr. Simeon.
He is managing director of the firm, and he wants the friend, by hook or...
By crook?
to see to it that the friend of the friend no longer works there. In return for which favour, the friend will get the friend of the friend's position.
Uh-huh.
What, therefore, is the friend to do? Which is more important? Friendship with the friend of the friend, or career advancement? And if the friend were to opt for the latter, how would he secure his friend's removal?
These are very, very interesting questions, Mr. Simeon.
He might murder him, I suppose?
Yes, that's true, he might.
Thank you, Mrs. Quirk. You've been most helpful.
I have red hair, you see.
You do?
And red hair, you see, is unlucky.
Is it? Oh, bad luck.
I am a confirmed invalid.
You are indeed. Your invalid status is beyond all dispute. Lizzie, a thought has just struck me most forcibly.
My life is so miserable.
So I gather. Miserable and short. Why, therefore, don't you write it up and get yourself published every 2 weeks in Primus's Potpourri, a magical miscellany of stories, reviews, features and gossip published by Spavin and Spavin. What do you say?
No one could be so utterly wretched as I.
My dear old thing, in the wretchedness stakes you are quite nonpareil. So, Lizzie Siddle, just sign here, will you?
Yes, darling?
Bun Hill Row, please, darling.
A fun afternoon?
It's been gorgeous, darling. DG says I'm his Beatrice personified, and he's going to paint 100 stunning portraits of me and worship me by the hour. How did you get on?
A little less exuberantly, Mater. The Siddle being something of a moaning Minnie. However, oh, look, Mater, a man.
Where?
With a hood on his head.
Oh, yes, darling. What's that bomb-like object he's holding?
Well, Mater...
Bloody hell! Bloody revolutionaries and proto-anarchists!
Mater,
Yes, darling?
I can feel my legs, but I can't see them.
Well, you had them with you this morning, darling.
Extraordinary thing, ain't it, the human body? I've got so used to having a pair of bandy things on the bottom half of me that I just can't get out of the habit now. Somehow the same old leggy messages are being passed to the brain, just as they always were. I can still sort of feel my legs in a sort of way.
That's because you've still got your legs, darling.
What? My God, so I have. Well, that's a bonus. Are you all present and correct?
I think so, darling.
Splendid. On we go then, Cabot.
I understand that there's been an assassination attempt upon you.
Correct. And upon Cordelia, Mother.
I also understand that the attempt was bungled.
It was. To think that I could have lost my wife.
Yes, you could have lost me, too.
I could, yes. Oh, to think that my dearest, tenderest, sweetest Cordelia...
And her son?
...might of a sudden have been snatched from me.
How is the mater?
Well, I have given her a very large brandy, and she is under strict instructions to rest and recuperate and so forth.
Gerald, darling.
Cordelia, darling.
Another very large brandy, if you wouldn't mind, darling. And then I'm off.
But, Cordelia, darling, you ought to be in bed.
I adore being in bed, darling, but one can't allow personal enthusiasms to stand in the way of social obligation. Could you send for a bomb-proof cab, darling? I've been invited out for dinner.
Miss Sybil! Miss Sybil! I have returned, with my legs, to the house where D.G., Lizzie and the Wombat live, in order to collect the first tragic outpourings from Lizzie's terminal pen. Miss Siddle!
Up here!
Miss Siddle! Why are you standing on that stool with a rope round your neck?
Death! Death! Let it be quick!
No, it can't be that quick. I haven't even seen your first instalment yet. How did you get on with it, by the way?
Oh, such sorrow!
Did you remember to mention that your life has been a perpetual struggle against dreadful illness?
Yes! Oh, such wretchedness!
Did you mention that no man ever has loved you for your soul?
Yes!
Prime cut! That's
That's the stuff.
Oh, my life is so miserable. I wish for no more of it.
Nonsense! You wish for another 25 more instalments. By the way, I brought a couple of bottles of wine.
How is it in the unknown land? Do the dead wander hand in hand?
Come on down, old thing. You can't quit now. You'll never discover how much worse it can get.
Do tall white angels gaze and wend along the banks where lilies bend?
Whether they do or they don't, there's no need to rush to find out. Unloose the noose, s'il vous plaît.
Tell me, Mrs. Quirk, how are things at the office?
Unsettled, Mrs. Spavin.
Unsettled?
Very. One of my brooms is missing. All the clocks are 5 minutes slow. And Mr. Simeon is plotting to do away with Mr. Primus.
Is he now? Oh, good.
Simeon.
Primus.
So, Simeon, you wanted to see me. And I think I know why.
Oh, yes?
Mon Dieu. Is that a pistol in your pocket, or...
Yes, it is, actually.
Fine piece. Family heirloom, is it?
No, I hired it for the day.
Splendid. Before we start on the agenda proper, take a look at this. El Cid's first contribution to Primus's potpourri. Sensational! What I really admire about her is her artistic genius and her general aura of neuroticism tinged with tuberculosis.
Fascinating.
Damn it, Simeon, that thing was loaded, and it was pointing in my direction.
Oh, Mr. Simeon! Mr. Simeon, what have you done?
I'll tell you what he's done, Mrs. Quirk. He's brought a loaded gun into my room, which was highly irresponsible of him, and of course the bloody thing's gone off. I could have been killed. A lovely, refreshing cup of tea, please, Mrs. Q.
Oh, yes, Mr. Primus, if I can get back in time. So then...
Oh, thank you very much.
Goodbye, Mr. Primus.
See you soon.
Farewell. Adieu.
Right. You requested a meeting, Simeon. Smart thinking. Well done. Simeon, how many more bullets are in that gun of yours?
Only 2.
Well, I wish you wouldn't fiddle with it, Simeon, because... You see? Damn it! Damn it!
Oh, Mr. Simeon, what have you done?
I'm afraid he's repeated his foolish error, Mrs. Q, in blatant contravention of our health and safety policy, paragraph 6, which states quite clearly, thou shalt not tote guns.
Oh, tea, Mr. Primus.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Simeon, not that you deserve it.
Thank you.
To return, encore. It seems to me, Simeon, that you're not as happy in your work as once you were. Vanished is that certain je ne sais quoi. Perhaps your needs will be met by going on one of those courses where you make bridges out of unpromising materials and eat berries and rabbits. By the way, do you think I ought to confiscate that wretched gun of yours before there's a very nasty accident?
No.
Oh. Or perhaps, Simeon, it's the case that you're looking for more flexible hours, or even another position.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Oh, Simeon, how very sad. We've had such happy times, n'est-ce pas? Success, too, of course. Oh, yes, we've been a fine team. A perfect partnership of kindred souls. Have we not, Simeon?
Yes, Primus, I suppose we have.
Simeon, the Almighty, bless him, broke the mould when he made you. You are one of a kind, and a dear, 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 dear friend.
Oh, Primus!
Oh, Simeon!
Oh, Primus! I've changed my mind.
Do you mean you withdraw your resignation?
Yes!
Oh, Simeon!
Oh, Primus! By the way, Primus, I have a confession to make.
Aha! So it was you who wrote the graffiti in the staff toilet?
No.
You're right. On reflection, it was me.
Oh, perhaps, but it was I who shot at you. Twice.
Yes, I noticed that.
And it was I who threw a bomb at your cab.
Oh, really?
Primus, I tried to kill you.
Mon cher ami, think no more on't.
Also, I gave you a bottle of wine.
Of course you did. There you are, you see? The generosity of a true chum.
Actually, Primus, it wasn't quite a bottle of wine. It was half wine and half laudanum.
Oh, yes?
Enough laudanum to kill an elephant.
Good Lord. I didn't know elephants took laudanum.
What, I wonder, has happened to that bottle?
Well, I think it went along with me to Rossetti's place. There were 2 bottles, and one of them I polished off while I was coaxing the suicidal Siddle out of her noose. But in view of what you have just declared, I rather doubt if that particular bottle was the one you gave me. Simeon, give me a cab. Almighty Pater in heaven, I require your assistance, s'il vous plaît. My name is Primus, by the way, of Spavin and Spavin in Paternoster Row. Used to be religious publishers, but now we turn our hands to almost anything, really. Hang on a second, will you? Cabby?
Yes, sir.
Can you not go any faster?
No, sir. My horse and I are suffering from post-traumatic shock disorder.
But you see, almighty Pater, by means of a bizarre concatenation of circs, the firm, I'm informed, has suffered somewhat on the financial front. So I was really hoping for great things from my latest venture, featuring Lizzie Siddle of 14 Chatham Place. Therefore, if anyone has drunk from the poison medium red that I took round to her place, let it be the husband. Or failing that, the wombat. Miss Siddle! Miss Siddle!
Stunning wine.
God, it seems, is deaf.
So, Primus, I gather the much-vaunted series of death diaries has died a death itself.
Sadly, yes, Step-Pater. The Cid collapsed on the job, I'm afraid. But as ever, it's an ill wind.
Oh, is it?
While I was foraging around for literary remains, Lizzie's husband knelt by the open coffin, racked by anguish sobs. "Oh, Lizzie," quoth D.G., "why did I neglect you so? Why, instead of seeing to your needs, did I paint and poetize and chase after stunners and take the wombat out for walks?" Suddenly he leapt up. "Lizzie," quoth he again, "the notebook of poems, those very verses which I was at work on while you sat, with your size 8s inside the fender, gazing at the fire, you shall have them, Lizzie, my dear." And he thrust the said notebook into the coffin and hid it under her carrot-coloured hair. Now, my views on this kind of business are well known.
Are they?
You can't allow sentiment to stand in the way of publishing great literature.
I don't think I'm with you, Primus.
Perhaps not. But you'll make sure you are tonight.
Tonight?
At Highgate Cemetery, Step-Pater. Meet me and Simeon by the main gate at 9 o'clock. And bring a spade.
A spade?
Yes. We're doing a spot of grave robbing. Don't be late.
That was episode 3 of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Gerald by David Horowitch, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Simeon by Charles Simpson, and Mrs. Quirk by Joan Sims. Rossetti and the cab driver, Stephen Critchlow, Lizzie Siddle, Becky Hindley, and Darwin, Ewan Meredith. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.
The year?
1863.
The place?
London.
My name is Gerald Spavin of Spavin and Spavin in Paternoster Row.
I am Mrs. Edith Spavin, Gerald's mother.
I'm Cordelia, his wife.
And I'm Primus, his stepson.
And my name's Simeon. I'm Primus's friend and right-hand man.
And I'm Mrs. Quirk, and I make the tea.
Ah, yes.
Actually, Mrs. Quirk...
And my name is Samuel Beaton. I am also a publisher.
And I'm Mrs. Beaton, of household management fame.
Actually, Mrs. Quirk, I'd like a word, if I may.
And I'm Tony Trollope, the celebrated author.
I think, Mrs. Quirk, that you had better come into my office.
So now, read on.
Bookcases by Martin Wade, with Michael Cochrane as Primus, Elizabeth Spriggs as Edith, Maggie Steed as Cordelia, David Horowitch as Gerald, Joan Sims as Mrs. Quirk, and Charles Simpson as Simeon. Episode 4, Merger Most Foul.
Tea, Mr. Spavin.
In a moment, Mrs. Quirk. Do sit down. I
have some, rather disappointing news to give you.
Mr. Spavin, I hope you're not about to tell me that the firm's performance has been so poor that you have no alternative but to initiate a programme of de-recruitment beginning with me, and that I must clear my tea trolley and be out of the building by lunchtime.
Well...
You weasel!
I'm really very sorry, Mrs. Quirk.
You stoat! Ready for your tea now, Mr. Spavin?
Oh, yes, please, Mrs. Quirk.
Make it yourself.
Read any good books lately?
Simeon, I publish books, but I never read them. Peering between the covers is an infernal bore. Most people find it so, which explains our slightly disappointing sales figures.
A lot of people like having books read to them, of course, by Mr. Dickens in particular.
Ah, yes. The Dickens, bless him.
His public readings are a stupendous success. Packed crowds, I understand, for highlights from Oliver. Mass fainting at the death of Nancy.
Yes. Yes, but, why should the Dickens have it all his own way? Simeon, I think I'm about to bring forth a great notion.
Morning, Mr. Primus. Morning, Mr. Simeon.
Ah, Mrs. Quirk, good morning.
This is your last cup of tea.
Oh, really? What have you put in it?
I have been informed that I am surplus to requirements.
Nonsense, Mrs. Quirk. You are the central, indispensable cog around which this whole enterprise revolves.
I'm glad to hear you say so, but you try telling that to Mr. Spavin.
Step better. Mrs. Quirk is the central, indispensable cog around which this whole enterprise revolves.
Oh, yes.
Therefore, I would ask you to think again about your decision to sack her. Have you thought again?
Yes, I think I should sack her. I think I should sack Simeon, too.
Simeon? You can't do that. He's my friend.
Primus, let me advise you of something.
Doom, gloom, yes, heard it all before. Now, let me advise you. I have come up with a superb new concept. Talking books.
Talking books?
Talking books.
You're mad.
The idea is this. We select a number of popular novels, hire a team of highly respected thespians who are in between shows.
Primus.
Yes, they're better.
Get out.
Oh, Gerald. Foolish Gerald.
There are printers' bills to pay, there are authors' moneys to pay, there are loans to pay, rates and taxes to pay.
Oh, Gerald.
The receivers are almost at the door.
Oh, Gerald.
Of course, Mother, if you had allowed your first literary endeavour...
Entitled Betrayed.
And the second book.
Betrayed Again. Both titles were at the top of the bestsellers list for more than 20 weeks.
If, as I say, you had allowed these monumental income generators to be published by Spavin and Spavin, and if the work you have in progress...
Entitled Betrayed Again and Again...
were to have been promised to us...
No, never.
There might have been room for hope.
I made it clear to you, Gerald. While the idiot boy remains at Spavin and Spavin, I shall have no dealings with the firm.
This cash problem, it's all Step Pater's fault.
Of course it is, darling.
Take talking books, for example. Brilliant idea, surefire money spinner. And Step Pater's response? Indifference, incredulity, blank refusal to provide development money.
Appalling, darling. I'm almost ashamed to be married to the man. So, what are you intending to do, darling?
Well, Meta, it occurred to me that I should seek an arrangement whereby the firm is amalgamated with another publishing firm, and I am elevated to a lofty managerial position within the new setup.
Gorgeous, darling. And with which publishers have you broached this idea, darling?
Smith, Elder and Company, Chapman and Hall, Bradbury and Evans, John Murray, Blackwood, Routledge, Chambers, Collins, Bradbury and Evans.
You've mentioned them already, darling.
I know, I tried them twice.
Any interest anywhere?
None. Nowhere. But I shan't give up.
You don't know how to, darling. Who are we to visit today?
Samuel Beaton. He's best known for Mrs. Beaton, apparently.
Who's she?
His wife, I suppose. Right, here we are.
Beaton's the publishers. How can I help you?
Well...
Take a seat.
Thank you, darling.
Dear sir, further to your letter of the 15th inst... Pass me that bundle of papers, will you?
Certainly. My name is Primus.
£430.
And mine is Cordelia, darling.
And we're here to see Mr. Beeton.
Plus 200. Oh, what do you like with numbers?
Oh, I get on well with all of them, though number 1 is my favourite.
Is Mr. Beeton in?
Now listen, I've lost a blue file.
We don't have an appointment.
You don't? Why not?
But here's a blue file.
Oh, that's his maybe. But where's the yellow one?
You know, darling, what you need is a secretary.
I am the secretary. I am the personal assistant. I am the financial director. I am editor and fashion correspondent of our periodical, The English Woman's Domestic Magazine. I write contracts, I write copy, I write letters, I proofread, I make the tea, I have nervous breakdowns.
This door says Mr. Beeton. I'll see if he's in, shall I? He's not busy, I hope.
No, he's never busy. He's resting.
Mr. Beeton.
I am busy.
You're like a demented bee, darling.
I am always busy. My name is Mrs. Beeton, as in Mrs. Beeton's household management.
Never heard of it. Mr. Beeton.
Which first appeared in 30 monthly parts and then in a single, exceedingly large volume. The avowed aim of the publication being to make wives conversant with the domestic arts and thereby encourage family harmony by persuading their husbands to spend as much time at home as possible.
No, still never heard of it. Does the Beeton rest long as a rule?
Most of the day. It's at night when my husband's active, and he doesn't spend much of the night at home.
Ah. Mr. Beeton!
Mr. Beeton, darling.
Mrs. Quirk, I must remind you that you are no longer an employee of this firm.
Ah, well now.
Speeches were made, flowers were culled and thrust at your bosom, tears were shed, and you were escorted off the premises.
Yes, Mr. Spavin, but I am back with a new job.
And what is your new job, Mrs. Quirk?
I am a talking book.
Oh, no, you're not, are you?
Well, in fact, I am a number of talking books.
Mrs. Quirk, please.
Spavin and Spavin's talking books. They speak volumes.
No.
For a ridiculously small amount of money, Mr. Spavin, I will read you the book of your choice, with special, distinctive voices for the different characters as appropriate. Here is a brochure.
Oh, dear.
With a list of titles and prices.
Thank you, Mrs. Quirk. Tell me, what do you charge for leaving me in peace?
A merger? Well, call it a takeover if you insist, whichever. Mr. Beeton, as you are no doubt aware, Spavin and Spavin is a high-profile firm with massive creative energy, commitment and vision.
Mrs. Spavin?
Yes, darling?
Come and sit here.
Gorgeous, darling.
We specialise in genre fiction, are able to boast an idiosyncratic array of literary hotshots.
Mrs. Spavin?
Yes, darling?
When can you have dinner with me?
This evening, darling. And tomorrow evening, too.
Gorgeous, darling.
It is my belief that a combination of the formidable forces of Spavin and Spavin on the one hand and Beeton on the other will prove to be a perfect dovetailing of complementary skills. Spavin, Spavin and Beeton, a publishing powerhouse. What do you think?
It all sounds very reasonable. There's just one area I'm a bit unclear on. Are you taking us over, or...
No. More the other way round, je pense.
Ah, so it would be Beeton, Spavin and Spavin.
Whichever. Now, I have here a large portfolio. Spavin, Beeton and Spavin?
No.
Containing profiles of our current authors, and also one of me.
And after dinner, darling...
Spavin, Beeton, Spavin and Beeton?
No. I thought we might go to a naughty nightclub in Great Pulteney Street.
Gorgeous, darling.
Also, a Venn diagram of our present staffing structure. Primus, Beeton, Spavin and Spavin?
No.
And various exciting new initiatives, including talking books.
Talking books?
The very same. They're catching on in a really big way. I'll send you a presentation copy. Post haste. You'll be amazed.
Yes?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am The Warden by Anthony Trollope, the first in his series of Barsetshire Chronicles. Thank you for allowing me into your home. My real name is Mrs. Quirk. Is Mr. Beeton in?
No, he's not. Excuse the pile of dishes. He's with another woman, the philanderer. Excuse the smalls. I am Mrs. Beeton, and I've only just got back from the office on account of the fact that I have to do all the work myself because my husband is not only a philanderer, but also a drone. Mind the cat.
Sorry.
And when I do get back, of course, the place is a complete mess because we can't afford to keep servants. Mind the cat, sick.
Oh, Lord, straight in it.
And I haven't the time or the energy to do any housework. And there's nothing in the larder, and it's all really, really depressing.
So then, The Warden by Anthony Trollope, Chapter 1.
Primus!
You bleated, Step-Peter?
What's all this about a takeover?
Not so loud, Step-Peter. Walls have ears. Ah, Simeon.
I'm afraid I couldn't help overhearing.
You see?
What is all this about a takeover?
Gentlemen, please, let me put the matter beyond doubt, dispute, and peradventure. There is not a scintilla of truth in the mischievous rumour that I recently went for a beaten and held secret negotiations with the fellow in the hope that he would be duped into taking over the firm.
Primus, good afternoon.
Yeah, beaten.
Yes, I thought I'd drop in to keep you informed of progress. Are these fellows in the know?
Well, they're getting that way.
Splendid. Now, I've had a conversation with Mrs. Beaton, my commercial development manager, and it's her opinion that the proposed takeover...
Or merger, as you and I, Step-Peter, may prefer.
...is worthy of serious consideration.
Yes, well, look here, it ought to be pointed out to you, Mr. Beaton, that it is I who am the managing director of this company, and it is I who am the sole proprietor.
True, but these titles won't be of much comfort, Step-Peter, when the company goes belly up. Do continue, Beaton.
Thank you. Mrs. Beaton advises that if the takeover...
merger
...is to go ahead, the offices here at Paternoster Row will have to be sold. But she also states that of the staff currently housed in the building, the number of compulsory redundancies will be very few.
How few?
2.
Mr. S.W. Huff?
Oh, that's one.
Mr. G. Spavin?
That's the other.
Well, well. Room will be found for Primus, then.
Oh, yes. Rather nice room, actually.
Traitor! Blackguard!
So, Step-Peter, deeply unhappy?
Yes.
I thought you might be. Beaton, you'll bring us the requisite forms to sign ASAP?
I will. Oh, before I go, Primus, I must tell you what an absolutely cracking time I had last night. What a woman. What delicious charms. What energy. Your mother, Primus.
What?
Is the most obliging and high-spirited creature I have ever had the pleasure to know.
Sir?
Yes, sir?
She who bore Primus by a previous marriage is now my wife.
Well, that is maybe.
What?
It seems to me, Mr. Spavin, that this man has grossly insulted you.
He has, Simeon, he has.
It seems to me, Mr. Spavin, that you cannot allow such an incident to pass unnoticed.
I agree, Simeon, I agree.
Honour must be satisfied, it seems to me. You must challenge this man to a duel.
A duel?
A duel?
Oh. Has he insulted me that much? No, Mother, not a takeover. It's more of an amalgamation, and I am assured that the family name and its illustrious history will live on. It's very good news, really.
Oh, Gerald, to think that it should end like this.
It's not an ending as such, Mother. It's more of a beginning, for want of a better word, a new epoch. The discussions with Mr. Beaton did, it's true, have one or two slightly unfortunate aspects.
Yes, Gerald?
First, I was told that I will be made redundant.
Oh, Gerald, Gerald.
And second, I was obliged to challenge Mr. Beaton to a duel.
A duel? Why?
To satisfy my honour.
Honour, Gerald? Do you have any honour?
You see, he intoxicated Cordelia quite against her will.
Oh, yes.
And then, Mother, he took advantage of her. Oh, poor Cordelia.
Gerald, you are a fool, and soon, perhaps, you will be a dead fool.
Ah, Beaton, sit down. Have a chop.
Thank you.
Just a few things to tell you. Item 1, the duel.
Yes, I've been thinking about that one myself.
We've fixed on Wednesday at dawn. Hyde Park at the east end of the Serpentine. Simeon will be Step-Peter's second, I'll be yours. Item 2, the merger.
Takeover.
Whichever. Now, I like you, Beaton, though I can't think why. And I'm sure that you and I could do business together. But it's only fair to point out that you're not the only one that's expressed an interest in Spavin and Spavin.
Oh, really?
Major publishing houses, international media conglomerates, colossi of the entertainment industry, they've all been sniffing around. So shouldn't you be hurrying things along somewhat?
No, don't think so.
Oh, damn.
Bertie, when he saw what he had done, rushed over the sofa.
Morning, Mrs. Beaton. Morning, Mr. Quirk.
And threw himself on one knee before the offended lady.
How are we doing?
Barchester Towers, page 85.
Mrs. Proudie's reception, during which, on account of the idiotic Bertie Stanhope, Mrs. Proudie's dress has been ripped, and a long ruin of rent lace disfigures the carpet. Oh, there's going to be trouble now.
This is only the second book of the Chronicles, Mr. Primus. There are 3 more, if I live that long.
What delights to look forward to. Oh, the heretofore unknown magical qualities of literature, revealed to me through the medium of talking books. What an ability a novel has to transcend the humdrum world, to lift one up and away from the drabness of everyday life, and build fantastic castles in the shimmering air.
Yes,
Mrs. Quack.
His object, doubtless, was to liberate the torn lace from the caster.
Nevertheless, I am a little concerned that you may have become distracted from the performance of your duties, most particularly with regard to the proposed deal with Spavin and Spavin. Financial arrangements, par exemple, contracts and such like. Would you not perhaps care to take a break from Barsetshire?
No. Shh. Onward, Mrs. Quack.
It's been a not nearly long enough sort of life. I had so much to look forward to. Domestic bliss with my dearest Cordelia and so forth. And now it is all to be snatched away from me. At dawn, on Wednesday, at the eastern end of the Serpentine, on account of the fact that honour must be satisfied. Oh, woe.
I won't prevaricate.
As you wish. Excuse me, will you, while I peer into this exceedingly large volume. Table napkins, floating flower bowls, the art of carving a table.
What are you doing?
I'm consulting Mrs. Beaton's doorstop in an attempt to discover how to manage the home.
Oh, right. Now, as I was saying...
Today's Monday.
Absolutely, and tomorrow it's Tuesday.
The day after that, I die.
And the day after that, unless your dear lady wife can gird her loins and step a bit lively, our little merger...
A takeover?
...will be consigned to the WPB.
Little-known vegetables, farinaceous preparations...
Beaton?
Yes, Primus?
Why is it that you want to discover how to manage the home?
Because I'm on my own, at home, just for a day or two.
Pourquoi?
Mrs. Beaton is paying a visit to Waltham Cross.
Waltham Cross?
Yes, she left for the station just half an hour ago.
Mrs. Beaton, there you are.
Mr. Primus, what a happy coincidence.
Hardly, Mrs. B. May I ask for what reason you are journeying to Waltham Cross?
Certainly. Mr. Trollope, author of the Barsetshire Chronicles, resides there, and I intend to call upon him.
Well, it's a damned unfortunate time to be doing it.
Perhaps, Mr. Primus, but you must shoulder some of the blame.
Huh?
Before talking books, you know, I had no taste for literature. But when Mrs. Quirk appeared, a new world suddenly opened up to me. Barsetshire. The cathedral and the bishop's palace, fields and country lanes, intrigues, ambition, love. I listened in bed, I listened in the bath and on the privy, and then, alas...
Alas?
There were no more chronicles of Barset. Mrs. Quirk had read them all. Sudden deflation, severe withdrawal symptoms.
So why the trip to Trollope?
I need to ask him. What happens next?
Mrs. Beaton and I have teamed up with Trollope at the local hunt.
I love riding horses. Do you love riding horses?
No.
Nor me. In my view, train travel is far to be preferred.
Oh, I love horses. I love life, and I live it to the full. Yikes! Tarantula!
Mr. Trollope!
Me eyes are very weak, it's true, but I have a loud voice and a big, bushy beard.
Mr. Trollope, Mrs. Beeton here, coming up on the outside, would like to ask you...
I'm a member of 3 London clubs, of which the Garrick's me favourite. Tarantula! Say Tarantula!
Tarantula!
Mr. Trollope!
Of course, I have a very busy working life, too. The post office, me novels...
Yes, it was concerning your novels that I...
At 5 sharp every morning, I'm working by Barney, the groom. Now that's very interesting. I wonder who wakes Barney. And I hurry to me desk, and I write with me watch before me.
Extraordinary. Mr. Trollope, Mrs. Beeton wishes to ask you a few things about your Barsetshire books, and she has declared that if she fails to be given satisfactory answers, she will be unable to carry on living. Mrs. B?
Thank you. I have 69 questions in all.
69?
As follows. In the next Barsetshire Chronicle, will Johnny Eames marry Lily Dale? Will Adolphus Crosby end up in the mire? Will Dr. Grantley say, good heavens, at least 50 more times? Oh, I do adore Dr. Grant.
Madam!
Will Mrs. Prouty die of a heart attack?
Madam, please. I have no intention of answering any of these questions. Not, that is, until December 1866, when the last Chronicle of Barset will begin publication in 32 parts.
Oh, but I can't wait that long.
Mrs. Prouty, a heart attack. Useful idea. Oh, by the way, the peepers being what they are, I don't always see the hedges till it's too damned late. Give me a shout if you spot one.
Certainly. Hedge!
Go on.
Whoa!
Mr. Spavin, Mr. Beeton, I have here a bag of very offensive weapons. Oh, isn't it thrilling?
It is, Simeon, almost too much so.
Weapons which have been kindly lent to Mrs. Cordelia Spavin by the gentlemen of the props department of the Lyceum. Our warmest thanks go to them.
Yes, indeed.
Now, gentlemen, you have a choice. There are pistols.
Oh, dear.
And there are sabres.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. I tell you what, Mr. Spavin can have a sabre, and I'll shoot at him from 5 paces.
Well, that you won't, sir, because I've just realised, silly Simeon, that I've forgotten to buy the ammo. Therefore, Mr. Spavin, your trusty blade...
Thank you, Simeon.
Oh, see how it glints in the first rays of the sun.
Yes.
Mr. Beeton, yours.
Thank you.
Ah, Mr. Spavin, here comes your dear lady wife.
What a gorgeous day for it.
Isn't it just?
Morning, darling.
Morning.
Morning, darling.
Morning.
Now, I want to make it quite clear that I intend to be absolutely impartial during this contest, so don't be surprised if you hear me cheering excitedly for both sides. Oh, here comes
Greetings.
Primus, darling.
Sorry I'm late. Listen, everyone, it's off.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God.
I meant, of course, the merger.
Oh.
You meant the takeover?
Oh, whichever.
Oh.
Beeton, your lady wife is gripped by an unhealthy obsession with make-believe bishops and country squires.
Really?
I left her at Waltham Cross rooting amongst the Trollops' rubbish bin in search of literary scraps and deliberating how to tunnel her way into the bearded postman's study. Her commercial endeavours, upon which you, Beeton, were utterly reliant, are suspended. The deal is off. Spavin and Spavin is sunk. But we are about to witness a gladiatorial contest, which shall be a bit of a diversion. Right. Do you chaps want to warm up at all? Do a bit of sabre rattling?
Oh, very well.
Right, that's enough.
May I read a poem I've written specially for the occasion?
No.
It's called Death in Hyde Park.
No.
Gentlemen, any final words?
Oh, God.
Splendid. Now, I want to see a fair contest and an exciting one, with lots of lunges and parries and pliés. Mater, would you like to start them off?
Gorgeous, darling.
Gerald!
On your guard!
Gerald! Gerald!
This isn't a particularly good moment, Mother.
Nonsense. I have some information of great import, and I think it's sensible to give it to you before you die.
Get set!
I have decided, Gerald, that I cannot possibly stand by and watch Spavin and Spavin being cast into oblivion.
Oh.
Not when I possess a personal fortune, which I have amassed from my enormously successful books.
Gerald, darling, are you set?
What? No, wait. What are you saying, Mother?
Get set!
I intend to rescue the firm.
Good Lord.
I intend to make a bid for Spavin and Spavin. Go!
Mother! Aha, his guard has dropped. Now's my chance.
Ah, idiot boy.
Ah, grand stepmother.
Nice room. Nice view.
Yes, it is a nice room, with a nice view.
If you recall, it was once mine, this room.
Yes, yes, indeed.
By the way, I've just come from seeing Gerald.
How is the poor stepmother?
Much improved. Sitting up, you know, and able to hold a pen.
Indeed.
All the papers have been signed. The deal is completed. Thanks to God and to the monies from my literary endeavours, Spavin and Spavin is mine. Its appalling debts have been paid off, and after some much-needed and drastic changes, most particularly the dismissal of Mr. Simeon Huff, and of yourself,
damn,
the firm will be on a safe footing again.
I see. Well, quel dommage, not to say quel horreur. May I make a long, impassioned speech?
No.
Oh. Grand stepmother, can this really be the end?
More of a new beginning, really. Phoenix rising from the ashes. Spavin and Spavin returning at last to its former glory.
How very dull.
Now, this room.
Nice room.
It is. I should like you out of it within the hour.
That was the final episode of Bookcases by Martin Wade. Primus was played by Michael Cochrane, Edith by Elizabeth Spriggs, Gerald by David Horowitch, Cordelia by Maggie Steed, Simeon by Charles Simpson, and Mrs. Quirk by Joan Sims. Beeton, Gerard McDermott, Mrs. Beeton, Rachel Atkins, and Trollope, Johan Meredith. Bookcases was directed by Cherry Cookson.